Chapter 13:28. At noon, the auspicious day had arrived. The seventh prince, wearing a dragon robe, strode to the highest point of the main hall. He held the dragon throne and looked down at everyone. Yunfeng stood proudly beside him. He was restrained and had no right to control the divine kingdom. He could not replenish the resources and wasted a lot of time. He also wanted to become the realm lord and replace him. He needed the support of a divine kingdom. Now that he had seized the opportunity, how could he not choose a puppet? The seventh prince's relatives and forces had been uprooted by Yi Qinghan. He had nothing. If he wanted to ascend the throne, he would need him. If he wanted to stabilize the country, he would also need him. When the time came, he would have to agree to use people. The seventh prince was just a puppet. What Yunfeng wanted was the same as Yi Qinghan. However, Yi Qinghan wanted more ruthless. He wanted to overthrow the seven realms, suppress the realm lords, and kill the controller. He only wanted to become the realm lord. The auspicious hour has arrived. Your Majesty, please ascend the throne. A guard announced in a deep voice. The seventh prince proudly ascended the throne and sat down cross-legged. He smiled and waited for the people to submit. Welcome Your Majesty to the throne. May Your Majesty live in peace forever. The officials bowed and submitted. Only Zhigu stood proudly because he knew that Yunfeng would not dare to do anything to him. Although the people of the left marshal's residence bowed slightly, they did not speak. Ha ha ha, my beloved subjects, rise. Today is the day of my ascension. I will grant amnesty to the world. The criminals in the periphery of the bitter, desolate prison can be released. As for the lowly people of the great wilderness, I will add some power of desolation to them. It will be considered as me treating them well. The seventh prince laughed. The people of the left marshal's residence were shocked. There was some disbelief in their eyes. They did not expect there to be such a prison in the divine world of the Snow Empire. Cough, cough. Yunfeng coughed twice, reminding the seventh prince not to speak carelessly. The location of the bitter desolation prison was not allowed to be exposed. Even some of the ministers did not know of its existence. It was used to imprison heinous criminals, but in the depths of the prison were the descendants of experts from the great wasteland domain, who would be enslaved forever. In the depths of the bitter desolate prison, it was extremely barren, unable to cultivate. Those experts were imprisoned, but they could marry and have children, continuing their lineage. However, the women who were born were all slaves, used for the entertainment of some of the royal family. There were also some who were sent to the front lines for the enjoyment of the army. Once they became pregnant, they had to be executed. The outside world would absolutely not allow the bloodline of the great desolate wilderness to be spread out. At this time, Gu Qingyu and the others had no choice but to wait. Bitter desolate prison was such an important piece of information that Yi Qinghan had to know. The seventh prince seemed to know that he had said the wrong thing, so he quickly shut his mouth and changed the topic. My beloved ministers, today is a day of celebration. I want to confer titles to my beloved ministers. You have worked hard for Scandinavia. If you are willing to assist me, I will naturally be more than happy to do so. If you are unwilling, I will not make things difficult for you. At this time, the outcome had already been decided. Who would still be stubborn? One after another, they expressed their allegiance. The fourth prince suddenly became a general without an army. Mr. Zhigu, you are the disciple of Mr. Ling Yan. I will confer you the title of Commander of the Snow Border Army. I hope that you can continue Mr. Ling Yan's glory and serve the Empire. As for the previous misunderstanding, I will not bother about it. The seventh prince, in order to appease Zhigu, had no choice but to throw out an olive branch. Yunfeng did not refuse, because he knew that Zhigu would not serve as a minister for a mentally retarded prince. Sure enough, Zhigu snorted and said indifferently, "Thank you for your grace, Your Majesty. However, I am used to being idle." After your majesty ascends the throne, I will leave the capital and give the position of commander of the Snow Border Army to Zhu Wuxin. The seventh prince coldly snorted and said with a hoarse voice, Beloved Minister Zhu Wuxin is too young. It is difficult for him to take on such a great responsibility. I will make my own decision. There is no need for Mr. Zhigu to worry. Then as you wish. Zhigu did not want to have too much interaction with this kind of person. He retreated to the back and prepared to leave. The seventh prince was dissatisfied with Zhiji's attitude, but he did not want to offend him. He pretended that he did not see anything and shifted his line of sight. He wanted to find someone who would serve him sincerely. At this moment, Yi Qinghan, dressed in the uniform of the commander of the Imperial Army, stepped into the Imperial Palace's main hall. He looked at the seventh prince with a mocking expression. Commander Zhua. Commander Zhua has returned. Hua. There was an uproar in the main hall. Commander Zhua's residence finally had a backbone. Some of the people who were traveling between the seventh prince and Commander Zhua's residence were suddenly terrified. They did not know what Commander Zhua meant and whether the imperial edict was true. Yi Qinghan, wearing golden armor and holding a spear, stepped into the main hall. Behind him were 3,000 Imperial Army soldiers that completely surrounded the Imperial Palace. You are Zhuafeng? How dare you bring soldiers into the Imperial Palace? Do you want to rebel? Mu Yunfeng coldly asked. The atmosphere in the main hall was ice-cold. No one dared to speak. Yi Qinghan calmly walked up the stairs to the seventh prince. You are His Excellency the Realm Lord's eldest disciple, Mu Yunfeng? How dare you threaten the Son of Heaven to order his vassals around and disturb the order of the Imperial clan? It seems you don't take His Excellency the Realm Lord's words to heart. The two of them stared daggers at each other, their battle intent soaring to the heavens. The coldness in the main hall was enough to freeze people to death. Many of the ministers backed away, their teeth chattering. Mu Yunfeng stared coldly at Yi Qinghan. Judging from his cultivation base, he was only a low-level paramount god. A disdainful smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. Even Paper Halberd had been defeated, so how could he? However, Yi Qinghan didn't even bother to look at Mu Yunfeng. He turned to the seventh prince and said, Your Highness, you don't have a dragon seal or an imperial edict. You can't ascend the throne. And even if you do, your ministers won't be of any use. I can still cripple them. What an arrogant Commander Zhua. Do you really think you're an assistant minister? If you scram now, I might be in a good mood and spare you. If you don't scram, I'll kill you on the spot. Mu Yunfeng used the power of his pseudo-world weapon and threatened coldly. A pseudo-world weapon? I have one too. Yi Qinghan took out a stone brick, which emitted a dense world energy that pressed down on Mu Yunfeng. Pooh! Many people standing at the front couldn't withstand the pressure at all. They coughed up blood and were sent flying. The seventh prince fainted, his face pale. If Mu Yunfeng hadn't reacted quickly, he would have been killed by the pressure. I wonder what fellow Taoist Mu thinks are your chances of winning if we were to fight here? Yi Qinghan asked faintly. Paper Halberd was overjoyed. With a peerless pseudo-world weapon, the seventh prince couldn't become emperor. No matter who it was, the seventh prince couldn't be emperor. He wasn't fit to be emperor at all. I support the Commander Zhua. Everything must be done according to orthodoxy. I heard that you have an imperial edict. If it's true, then we must follow His Majesty's wishes. No one can disturb the order of the royal family. Paper Halberd stepped forward to support Yi Qinghan. What if I insist on making the seventh prince emperor? Mu Yunfeng stared at Yi Qinghan with narrowed eyes and asked coldly. Yi Qinghan sneered and replied indifferently, If you can make him emperor, then I can cripple him. What makes you think you can? Mu Yunfeng asked coldly. Chapter 1329. Above the main hall, a domineering aura filled the air. Yi Qinghan forcefully faced the eldest disciple of the Realm Lord. His voice was hoarse and dignified, not allowing any blasphemy. With the imperial edict in my hand and the dragon's seal bestowed by the emperor. Shua. Yi Qinghan tossed the imperial edict into the air. The laws engraved on the edict were exactly the laws that the emperor had comprehended. The words on the edict were enough to prove that it was the will that the emperor had written when he was awake. Most importantly, Yi Qinghan took out the dragon's seal that represented the emperor. Only with the dragon's seal could one be the emperor. Without the dragon's seal, one wasn't the legitimate emperor. At this moment the entire hall was in an uproar. The seventh prince had lost his chance. Yunfeng frowned. He couldn't imagine why the late emperor would be so foolish as to give the dragon's seal to an outsider. How much trust did he have to have in order to do this? The seventh prince howled unwillingly and angrily roared, "Zhuofeng, you treacherous and treacherous official! How dare you steal Imperial Father's dragon seal and forge an imperial edict? Men, take this treacherous official down. I will reward you handsomely." Yi Qinghan's lips curled into a smile. He looked at the seventh prince like he was looking at an idiot. The dragon seal is in the emperor's sea of consciousness. Without his approval, who can take it? Seventh prince, are you trying to defy the late emperor's edict? Yi Qinghan retorted. At this moment, Yunfeng couldn't do anything. An imperial edict and a dragon seal were legitimate. Yi Qinghan was incomparably cold. He turned around and stared at the officials. He said in a deep voice, "Everyone knows that I have a grudge with the ninth prince. If the imperial edict was forged, I could have forged it to allow the 18th prince to ascend the throne. After all, I still have some personal feelings for him. However, the emperor has decreed that the ninth prince will be the crown prince. When the emperor is ill and can no longer handle state affairs, the crown prince will ascend the throne. With the dragon seal and imperial edict as proof, anyone who dares to disobey will be disrespectful to the late emperor. We obey the late emperor's edict. We welcome the ninth prince's ascension to the throne." The people under the control of the left marshal's mansion were the first to submit, and then most of the ministers supported the ninth prince. The ninth prince felt like he was in heaven for a moment, then in hell for a moment. His heart was already numb, and he thought that he was dreaming. He stood there in a daze for a long time before his body moved with excitement. He looked gratefully at Yi Qinghan. "Thank you, Marshal Zhua, for your loyalty. You disregarded our past enmity and delivered Imperial Father's will. This humble prince is moved to tears. I will definitely not disappoint Imperial Father's great trust and take the world as my responsibility. I won't disappoint Mr.'s assistants. I will definitely put the loyal officials in important positions, and will definitely not be used by treacherous officials." The ninth prince bowed deeply and said in a serious tone. For the ninth prince to be so courteous, Ji Gu was very satisfied. He thought to himself, "Perhaps the late emperor's decree was correct. Your Majesty, I dare not accept such a great gift. You are now His Majesty. Please wear the dragon robe and ascend to the throne." Yi Qinghan waved his hand and brought over a dragon robe. Clearly, he was already prepared. Wait. Let's put aside the matter of ascension for now. Today, we must investigate the death of Marshal Yun. Snow Border Army Xue Ling roared in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan was stunned. Clearly, this was not part of the plan. At least, it was not supposed to happen now. Marshal Yun still had a very important mission to complete. He must have the support of the imperial family's backbone in order for the ninth prince to ascend to the throne. Marshal Yun has turned into the Tao? Wasn't he still fine before I left? What exactly happened? Tell me. Yi Qinghan furiously asked. This anger was definitely true anger because someone had ruined his plan. Yi Qinghan's anger caused the entire palace to tremble. Ji Gu and Mu Yunfeng frowned because they felt the pressure. It was as if the realm master was angry. This kind of supreme dignity was not something that could be cultivated overnight. A few days ago, someone who looked exactly like you entered Marshal Yun's residence with the Imperial Marshal token. However, after leaving, Marshal Yun died tragically in his room. When that person went to the Left Marshal's residence with the Imperial Marshal token, the Left Marshal's residence realized it was fake and a great battle broke out. Only then did Marshal Yun's residence discover Marshal Yun's death. Zhu Wuxin said in a deep voice. A person can be fake, I naturally believe that. However, how can the Marshal's seal be fake? I personally guarded Marshal Yun's side and saw the Marshal's seal with my own eyes. Explain to me, how did the Marshal's seal appear in someone else's hands? Xue Ling angrily questioned. A few days ago, I entered Snow Country's God Realm from the True Spirit Realm through the Border River. The Border River's Army Commander Jun Lu can testify for me. As for the Marshal's seal, it has always been with me. Take a look, is this the Marshal's seal you saw? Yi Qinghan frowned and directly threw the Marshal's seal to Xue Ling. Xue Ling took the Marshal's seal and hurriedly retreated. His eyes were full of anger and unwillingness. He roared, I was deceived. It was my mistake that caused Sir's death. Ah, Xue Ling roared at the sky. He was extremely ashamed. He knelt on the ground and cried bitterly. He wailed, Marshal Yun, it was my fault. I actually let a fake Marshal's get close to you. That's why you died so miserably. I deserved to die. With that, Xue Ling pulled out his sword and was about to commit suicide. Yi Qinghan looked at Xue Ling's pained expression. He knew the feelings between the two, and also knew Zhu Wuxin's feelings for Marshal Yun. His eyes were cold, but he did not stop him. Zhu Wuxin stepped forward and pressed down on Xue Ling's large hand. He said in a low voice, If you blame yourself and commit suicide now, how can you face Marshal Yun? Wake up. Finding the real culprit is the only way to answer to Marshal Yun's soul in heaven. The dead are gone. Xue Ling, I can understand the feelings between you and Marshal Yun. Since this matter involves me, I will naturally give you an explanation. I will also give Marshal Yun an explanation, and give the world an explanation. Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. Xue Ling's face was full of regret. He said guiltily, Thank you for your understanding, Marshal Zhou. I was too impulsive, and almost fell for the villain's trick. No matter. When the 9th prince ascends the throne, Marshal Yun's funeral will definitely be grand. I'm sure His Majesty will also support it. Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. At this time, Zhigu and Muyunfeng became spectators. Muyunfeng did not dare to risk universal condemnation and forcefully kill Yi Qinghan to protect the 7th prince as emperor. He could only plan for the long term. Yi Qinghan handed the dragon robe to the 9th prince. He bowed and said, Your Majesty, please bless the dragon robe, ascend the throne, and order a thorough investigation of Marshal Yun's death. The 9th prince's hands trembled as he took the dragon robe. He entered the side hall and put it on. His face was red, but he pretended to be sad. He said in a hoarse voice, 5th Imperial Uncle has made great contributions to the Empire. Until now, only one daughter has been guarding 5th Imperial Aunt's tomb in the ancestral grounds. Now that 5th Imperial Uncle has died in Xing City, I am heartbroken. I will give 5th Imperial Uncle's daughter, Xue Yu, the title of Princess Tianjiao. Today, I order that Marshal Zhou will be the inspector to investigate the truth and give 5th Imperial Uncle justice. What if this matter involves the divine sect? Yi Qinghan asked indifferently. Chapter 1330. At this time, Zhigu walked out and coldly said, This matter involves the life of the commander of the Snow World Army. Whoever dares to assassinate the commander of the Snow World Army, no matter who it is, kill them all. Whoever dares to stop me, I will lead the Snow World Army and flatten their entire family. This is my master's order back then. The god lord hid outside the palace and did not say anything. He thought that both sides would suffer. But now, it seems that Yi Qinghan won. Even Mu Yunfeng can't do anything to him. But seeing the killing intent in Mu Yunfeng's eyes, he thought of a plan. Since he can't ally with Ji Gu, he can ally with Mu Yunfeng. With any one of them, it would be easy to kill Yi Qinghan. Those who follow me will prosper, those who oppose me will die. Zhuofeng, you will die more miserably than the Snow World Army. The god lord coldly said as he stared at Yi Qinghan's back with killing intent. Yi Qinghan turned around and stared at the god lord hiding in the dark. Killing intent rose from the corner of his mouth. Divine sect will perish within 3 years. Resist, otherwise you won't have a chance. Yi Qinghan secretly transmitted his voice to the god lord. He hoped that the god lord would resist and destroy the divine world so that they can kill each other. Only when they wake up from their dreams will they know that sometimes revenge can be so cruel. The god lord was expressionless, but the killing intent in his eyes was not concealed. I'll wait for you. I'm afraid you won't live for more than 3 years. The god lord threw down these words and turned around to leave. Yi Qinghan's words determined the situation. Mu Yunfeng could not change the situation and could only leave angrily. However, he did not leave the holy city. He wanted to find a chance to kill him and appoint a new emperor. Ji Gu also left the main hall. He was not interested in the title of nobility. With his identity, if he wanted to take the position of commander of the Snow Army, even the emperor and Yi Qinghan would not be able to stop him. All that is left is for the 9th prince to ascend the throne and appoint a new minister. A new emperor brings new ministers. The 9th prince no longer has any trusted aide. He can only use the people from the left marshal's residence. He does not dare to not use the people from the left marshal's residence. That day, all the people of the left marshal's mansion were in charge of important places, holding great power in their hands. The commander-in-chief position of the Snow Realm Army was clearly in the hands of Yi Qinghan, while the commander-in-chief position of the Imperial Army was given to Jiang Jingtian. Zhu Wuxin became the deputy commander, Xue Ling also became the deputy commander. Using the original people of the Snow Realm Army to kill Shenzong, that kind of satisfaction was self-evident. Once Yi Qinghan took the position of commander, he was ready to kick out those who didn't listen to him and prepare to attack divine sect. 2 days later, the holy city was completely stabilized. After that, Yi Qinghan held a state funeral for Marshal Xue. It was a grand event, and it was also the foundation for Marshal Xue's revenge. The Snow Border Army had a common enemy and wanted to take revenge. But just after the state funeral for Marshal Yun, the previous emperor passed away from his coma. Mournful cries rang out everywhere. The divine realm of Snow Country was covered in snow. All the overlords were in danger. The death of the previous emperor meant that the divine kingdom was now completely under the control of the 9th prince and Yi Qinghan. Who lived and who died would be decided by the two of them. The reckoning had begun. The imperial concubines in the harem were terrified. The princes and princesses were in despair. Because the previous emperor had passed away, many people would be buried with him. This was a custom. At least half of the imperial concubines would be buried with him. As for the princes and princesses, that would depend on the mood of the new emperor. Back then, the imperial concubines didn't think that the 9th prince could ascend the throne. Therefore, the imperial concubines' attitude towards Xue Ling was extremely bad. But now it was too late to regret. Now, in the harem, Xue Ling was wearing a phoenix crown and officially became the Empress Dowager. A large number of imperial concubines were kneeling in the palace, begging her. They hoped that she would spare their lives and that she wouldn't implicate their children. Sister Xue, this lowly servant was wrong. Please be magnanimous and don't bicker with this lowly servant. I'm willing to be a cow or a horse for the rest of my life. Only concubine Yu and concubine Lian had cold expressions. They didn't want to be weak. Concubine Lian still had divine sect behind her. If divine sect didn't fall, who would dare to do anything to her? As for concubine Yu, she was furious. She didn't want to compromise. She would rather die than kneel to Xueling. She also didn't want to lower her head to Yi Qinghan. Xueling was the ruler of the world and controlled the harem. The life and death of these people was in her hands. She was in a particularly forthright mood. Looking at the beautiful women in the palace, her eyes flashed with hatred and killing intent. The harem's struggle for power was far more vicious than the ministers. They could easily have their entire families executed. 30 years in the east, 30 years in the west. You did what you did in the past, so don't blame me for doing what I did now. His Majesty has passed away. He needs people to be buried with him. You've done what you did in the past. Begging me now won't change anything. Xueling said coldly. Kill me if you want. I'm willing to be buried with the previous emperor. Concubine Yu said angrily. Sister Yu, I won't kill you. That child Wuhan has a good relationship with Marshal Zhuo. Marshal Zhuo's heart is 18. This is only His Majesty's decree. Why are you angry with me and Mr. Zhuo? Xueling pretended to sigh. Concubine Yu snorted and didn't answer. She had lost her virginity to Yi Qinghan but didn't get anything. How could she be willing? As long as Sister Yu doesn't mind, you and I will be in charge of the harem. 18 will be conferred the title of King of the 9 states. How about it? In order to please Yi Qinghan, Xueling didn't want Yi Qinghan to dislike her, so she made a huge concession. Concubine Yu's expression became better. She bowed slightly and said, I don't mind if it's up to Sister Yu. As long as 18 has a good home and can be the king of peace for a lifetime, I will be satisfied. Sister Yu is so kind. Come sit with Sister Yu. You and I will be sisters from now on. Half of the harem belongs to you. Xueling smiled. At this time, the other concubines realized that they had begged the wrong person. Ever since 9th Prince was grounded, Xueling had been neglected and ostracized by the other concubines. It would be strange if she didn't take revenge. At this moment, Yi Qinghan arrived in his armor. Looking at the concubines kneeling on the ground, a cold smile appeared on his face. Thinking about the existence of the bitter, desolate prison, he didn't feel any pity at all. Lord Left Marshal, please show mercy. Sir, as long as you open your golden mouth, this lowly servant is willing to be an ox or a horse. Please help me say a word. The concubines turned and kneeled towards Yi Qinghan with tears and snot. Even if they were banished to the cold palace, they didn't want to be buried with him. Most of the people in the harem were cold-blooded. Even if a pure person came in, they would leave with a body full of filth. No one could escape. If one wasn't ruthless and cold, they would be played to death. Yi Qinghan looked at the many beautiful concubines and sneered. He said faintly, The matters of the harem are decided by Empress Dowager Xue. This general is only an outsider and can't interfere. Now leave. This marshal has something to say to Concubine Yu and Empress Dowager Xue. Concubine Yu and Concubine Xue didn't dare to be presumptuous anymore. They quickly stood up respectfully. The concubines left. The two naturally looked like slaves. They wanted to curry favor with Yi Qinghan, but they were wary of each other and didn't dare to be too obvious. Yi Qinghan sat on the phoenix bed. Concubine Xue half-knelt on the bed and massaged Yi Qinghan's shoulders. She gently said, Sir, you've worked hard recently. If you have anything to say, say it later. Let me massage your shoulders to relax you. Concubine Yu saw Concubine Xue being so careless and her expression changed. She finally understood why Yi Qinghan suddenly supported the 9th Prince. He lost in service. Chapter 1331. Yi Qinghan faintly smiled and did not resist. He silently enjoyed it. Seeing Yu Fei about to leave in anger, he reached out and grabbed her. Yu Fei, His 18th Highness is not suitable to be the emperor. I will make him live a more comfortable life than the emperor. If you continue to resent me, then you don't know how to appreciate my kindness," Yi Qinghan coldly warned. Yu Fei's hands and feet immediately turned cold. She no longer dared to show her displeasure and took the initiative to massage his shoulders. However, she was far less daring than Xue Fei. Xue Fei did not have any dignity in front of Yi Qinghan. In order to be high and mighty, she was willing to risk it. Since there were only 3 people in the room, even the maids and guards did not dare to approach. She took the initiative to reach her hand in. Yi Qinghan indifferently enjoyed it and asked in a low voice, "How much do you know about the bitter desolate prison?" "Bitter desolate prison?" Xue Fei was surprised. Only a few princes and favored concubines knew about this place. It was a place for nobles to cultivate concubines. As for the periphery, all the heinous criminals were thrown in there. It was desolate and barren, unsuitable for humans to live there. Their cultivation would become weaker and weaker. "I know a bit about this place. I heard it's in the far north state, but I don't know the exact location," Xue Fei helplessly said. Yi Qinghan did not dare to ask the other princes about this place. As for the 9th prince, he did not know either. He could only ask Xue Fei and Yu Fei. However, he knew the general location was in the far north state. He would eventually find it. After being served by the 2 top-quality concubines for a while, he comfortably left the palace. That day, Xue Fei ordered the death of a dozen concubines. The rest were all banished to the cold palace and sent away by Yi Qinghan. However, Yi Qinghan had no interest in sending away a few disfavored concubines. He only wanted to quickly find the bitter desolate prison in the far north state. He asked Xiao Yu, but she did not know either. "Only the imperial family knows about this place. I heard that it is a place to imprison criminals. Even the divine sect might not know. Even the princes only know the general location. Yunfeng, Ji Ge, and the 4th prince should know the exact location," Xiao Yu reminded. Yi Qinghan shook his head. He obviously couldn't let these 3 people know about this. Once he inquired about the location of the bitter desolate prison for no reason, it would definitely attract the attention of others. It would be bad if his identity was exposed. Temporarily give up on finding the location of the bitter desolate prison. "I want to kill Divine Sect." Yi Qinghan grinned coldly. "How?" "Divine Sect's foundation is very deep. If you don't have any evidence, it will be very difficult for you to defeat him. When the time comes, even if the Realm Lord is alarmed, he will not be able to convince him to wipe out Divine Sect," Xiaoya said. Yi Qinghan sank into deep thought as he sat in his chair. Divine Sect's contributions were too great and their foundation was too deep. Wanting to kill Divine Sect was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Just as Yi Qinghan was deep in thought, the divine bird ran over and said wretchedly, "If we don't have any evidence, we can frame him, and tempt him to commit a crime. If we think that the crime is too small, we can throw the emperor and my master out for him to kill." The speaker didn't mean it, but the listener took it seriously. Yi Qinghan's eyes lit up. Indeed, if he forced the Divine Master and then took the 9th prince out to hunt, he believed that the Divine Master would go all out and think of a way to kill the emperor and himself. When the time came, even Mu Yunfeng might be implicated. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Investigate the Tong family case. First, wipe out the 8,000 people from Divine Sect. I don't believe that the Divine Master won't go all out against me. Yi Qinghan slowly stood up and ordered the investigation of the Tong family case to begin. Snow Realm Mansion was already under the control of Yi Qinghan's people. The mansion master was Nangong Yunlan. She directly ordered the capture of those people, tortured them, and destroyed their dignity. There were all kinds of strange things. Some of the weaker ones even had their souls invaded and their consciousness searched. The grand giant god was actually beaten into a fool. When there were all kinds of strange things happening, no one could keep their mouths shut. The paramount god elder finally couldn't take it anymore. He was tortured by Xiaoya for 3 days and 3 nights using hellish method. In the end, he couldn't take it anymore. He loosened his teeth and confessed everything that happened in the past. With one person confessing, the rest of the people could only choose to submit in order to survive or to reduce the torture. After signing, Yi Qinghan took the evidence and mobilized 30% of the Snow Realm Army's strength to surround Divine Sect. The people who encircled the Tong family back then had to be handed over. This was the bottom line. Otherwise, war would begin. In the end, the Ling family was alarmed. Zhigu had no choice but to be the peacemaker and mediate. However, Yi Qinghan wasn't willing to back down. He had to do things according to the rules. He had to execute those people back then as a warning to others and also as an explanation to the Tong family. Divine Sect had no other choice. At this time, they didn't have any justification. Once they fought with the Snow Realm Army, they would only end up as cannon fodder. They could only grit their teeth and give up on the 8,000 elite. Yi Qinghan took away the 8,000 Divine Sect experts. He didn't even interrogate them outside the holy city. In front of Tong Tong, he ruthlessly killed all of them, broke their spines, crippled their cultivation, and hung them in the wilderness for the world to see. This kind of vengeful massacre was extremely vicious. However, Tong Tong felt refreshed. He was giving them a taste of their own medicine. The resentment became less and less. The chances of them turning into resentment death children were also much lower. Divine Sect's spies reported the scene outside the holy city. The Divine Master was furious and filled with killing intent. If I didn't do anything, you would have forced my Divine Sect to its death. The Divine Master seemed to have aged 10,000 years. He had lost the Snow Lotus and the Realm Bone. He had lost 8,000 elites in an instant. What he had lost was not only their lives, but also the dignity of Divine Sect. Everyone in Divine Sect was in danger. Some elites no longer tried to squeeze into Divine Sect. Now that Divine Sect wanted to take the initiative to recruit them, they weren't willing. If this continued, Divine Sect would naturally decline. Yi Qinghan didn't do anything after wiping out the 8,000 Divine Sect elite. Instead, he summoned Gu and Gu Qingyu. The 2 pseudo-realm artifacts could only display their power in the hands of suitable people. As for himself, the pseudo-realm artifacts might be able to display his strength for a long time. However, there had to be a few people in this group of brothers who could take charge. Otherwise, he couldn't just rely on himself. Gu and Gu Qingyu met Yi Qinghan alone. They didn't understand why they would meet him alone. Yi Qinghan had set up a super great divine array in the courtyard. It could prevent any aura from rushing out of the barrier. He then took out the 2 pseudo-realm artifacts. The world energy and terrifying pressure forced the 2 to retreat in panic. Their faces were pale, but the excitement in their eyes was self-evident. Not just one pseudo-realm artifact. Any one of them could flatten everything. As long as they reached Huang Peng's level, they would be able to fight against a heavily injured realm lord with a pseudo-realm artifact. Of course, the premise was that those heavily injured realm lords didn't use their realm artifact. This is a pseudo-world artifact that I obtained by chance, Yi Qinghan said hoarsely. It is very suitable for you all. It is a waste for me to have it in my hands. If I need to use it, I won't be able to defeat them. If I don't need it, I can kill them without it. Brother, this. Gu couldn't contain his excitement. He wanted to take out the pseudo-realm artifact stone brick, but he was too embarrassed to do so. Gu Qingyu, on the other hand, was much more mature. After all these years, their brotherhood had surpassed that of real brothers. He was much less worried than Yi Kuan. There are too few materials for pseudo-realm artifacts. There are even fewer natural products. So far, I have only found these 2. I can't let everyone in the insane sect wield a pseudo-realm artifact. Not now, not in the future. It's normal to be biased. However, these pseudo-realm artifacts are most suitable for you. Chapter 1332. The Holy City was quiet for a long time, and the ninth prince was enjoying himself. He didn't need to be involved in important matters, and he didn't need to make decisions. Xue Fei didn't even want the ninth prince to interfere with politics, so she advised him to listen to Yi Qinghan. At this time, Xue Wuhan and Yu Fei saw that the Holy City was completely under Yi Qinghan's control. They seemed to understand why he didn't want them to be emperor. Maybe he has feelings for me and doesn't want to control me. Xue Wuhan sighed. Within the imperial palace, imperial concubine Yu was also deep in thought, but imperial concubine Xue was immersed in the vortex of power. As for submitting to Yi Qinghan, she didn't care at all. At the very least, Yi Qinghan was more handsome, powerful, and able to satisfy her more than the previous emperor. When Yi Qinghan was free for half a day, he would often run to the imperial palace. Perhaps it was because Xue Fei's service was too good, but she didn't know that he had other thoughts. Xiaoya saw Yi Qinghan go to the palace, and she was confused. She asked curiously, "Why do you always go to the palace? What are you doing?" Yi Qinghan sat in his chair and said casually, "Yes." "Yes? What do you mean by yes? Is that an answer?" Xiaoya was speechless. Of course it is an answer. Children shouldn't ask questions if they don't understand. By the way, I asked you to contact that old fart. Did you get in touch with him? Yi Qinghan asked calmly. I can't get in touch with him. Xiaoya rolled her eyes and snorted. That old fart. When I need him, he doesn't appear. When I don't need him, he pollutes my eyes. When I'm strong enough, I'll find him. I'll break his legs and make him stay in front of me all day, Yi Qinghan said angrily. I can't find that old fart, but I got another piece of news that you should be interested in. Xiaoya kept him in suspense. What news? Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and asked. According to the auction house, there will be a pseudo-world treasure and several pseudo-world treasure materials up for auction this year. I heard that a paramount god obtained it by accident while training, but he was unable to control it. He hopes to trade it for some resources and buy a piece of land, Xiaoya said calmly. Yi Qinghan looked at Xiaoya suspiciously and asked in surprise, as an assistant minister, I didn't receive the news. How did you find out before me? Xiaoya rolled her eyes and said discontentedly, Who told you to run to the imperial palace all day? Have you forgotten about your lovely wife and little wife? Do you still care about other things? Yi Qinghan shook his head and said helplessly, I went to the palace to search for ancient texts and the bitter desolate prison. What do you think I went there for? All right, you're quite diligent. I got this information from the infernal realm. The auction house has some connections with some supreme powers. Once there's a treasure to be auctioned, they'll definitely notify us. I'm sure the divine sect knows about it too. Xiaoya said indifferently. Yi Qinghan sneered. It seemed that there was no need for another hunt. After the auction, they could force the divine sect to make a move. Just as the two of them finished speaking, a guard ran in with an invitation. When they opened it, they saw that it was an invitation from the auction house. The information on it was exactly the same as the information Xiaoya had received. How can I not take an opportunity given by the heavens? Yi Qinghan clapped his hands. I want 2 pseudo-world treasure materials. As for the finished product, even if I am interested, I cannot afford it. I might not be able to afford the materials. Help me, Xiaoya said seriously. Sure. Not only can I help you get pseudo-world treasure materials, but I can also forge them into pseudo-world treasures. But how are you going to repay me? Think carefully before you answer me. Yi Qinghan teased her. Xiaoya looked at Yi Qinghan's evil smile and knew what he meant. She pouted and looked cute. Yi Qinghan smiled but did not say anything. He got up and left the armchair. He went straight to the palace. Inside the emperor's palace, although the ninth prince could not control the world after waking up, he could still get drunk and lie on the knees of beauties. There were 7 or 8 naked beauties on the bed, and they were having a crazy time. Among them were the previous emperor's concubines. The ninth prince looked very satisfied and was enjoying himself. Dong! Dong! Who is it? Didn't I tell you not to disturb my rest? The ninth prince angrily scolded. Your Majesty, Mr. Zhuo wants to see you. An urgent voice came from outside the door. The ninth prince immediately got up in a panic. He was not afraid of Shuefei. He was not afraid of anyone, but he was afraid of Yi Qinghan. The ninth prince put on his clothes and ran out. He saw Yi Qinghan standing by the pond outside the palace. He was looking at the water leisurely. He quickly went up and said, Mister, if there is something you need, you can just send someone to tell me. There is no need for you to come here personally. Your Majesty, although I am an assistant minister, I am still an official. How can I do something so disgraceful? Yi Qinghan smiled. The ninth prince smiled and asked, Mister, why have you come to see me? If you have any difficulties, just say it. Half of the empire is yours. Yi Qinghan said seriously, What difficulties can I have? I have come to see you, Your Majesty, to strengthen your empire. I have just received news that the auction house has obtained a pseudo-world artifact and several rare pseudo-world artifact materials. I hope that Your Majesty can follow me to the auction house and obtain these treasures. With another pseudo-world artifact, who will be able to shake Your Majesty's empire? The ninth prince was immediately overjoyed. His empire had been obtained by relying on a pseudo-world artifact stone brick. If he obtained another one, Muyanfeng and Ji Gu would not be able to take away his empire even if they worked together. On the other hand, if Muyanfeng obtained it, it would be easy for him to turn the tables and overthrow his rule. Mister, do not worry. I will definitely help you obtain the pseudo-world artifact and materials, the ninth prince said excitedly. Yi Qinghan was very satisfied with the ninth prince's attitude. First, he had suppressed him and then supported him. The ninth prince only felt gratitude and fear towards him. The ninth prince understood that if Yi Qinghan could support him, he could also overthrow him and replace the 18th prince. Your Majesty, please continue to enjoy yourself. I will go and visit Empress Dowager Shui. For the next few days, she and the people from the left marshal's residence will be helping to deal with administrative matters. I will personally accompany you to purchase the pseudo-world artifact and materials, Yi Qinghan said with a smile. The ninth prince smiled and watched Yi Qinghan leave. He did not know that he was bait in Yi Qinghan's hands. He was just baiting the divine sect and Muyanfeng to take action. After Yi Qinghan left, he went to Empress Shui's palace. Empress Shui had been enjoying torturing the previous emperor's concubines who had fallen out of favor these days. She had enjoyed her days at the peak, and her heart had become somewhat perverted. Yi Qinghan stepped into the room and saw the 7th prince's concubine mother being beaten to a pulp. He could not help but frown. The 7th prince had already escaped with Muyanfeng. Now, Empress Shui could only torment his concubine mother. Empress Dowager Shui's body is precious. How can she see blood? Forget it. As for these people, let them live peacefully in the harem so that they do not pollute the Empress Dowager's eyes and soul, Yi Qinghan said lightly. Empress Shui was shocked. She understood what Yi Qinghan meant and quickly ordered people to release the 7th prince's concubine mother. Yi Qinghan dismissed everyone and looked at Empress Shui with an evil smile. He reached out and pressed her to kneel on the ground. He whispered, I like obedient girls, not vicious ones. You have been a bit extreme recently. Chapter 1333. Shui Imperial Concubine knelt before Yi Qinghan. She was much more docile and obedient. She only knew how to serve and satisfy him. Yi Qinghan did not have many feelings for Shui Imperial Concubine. They just needed each other. After a while, Yi Qinghan left the palace. Everywhere he went, no one dared to disobey him. The guards and maids in the palace had all been changed. Even a fly could not escape Yi Qinghan's eyes. Now, the people in the palace first recognized the left marshal, then the emperor. Of course, the 9th prince did not care about that. He was high and mighty, and Yi Qinghan had given him enough face. What was there to be dissatisfied with? He was not like the other princes. They were either imprisoned in their mansions or fled like the 4th and 7th princes. The 18th prince had a better fate. Yi Qinghan returned to the left marshal's mansion and began to make arrangements. He sent some trustworthy and powerful people to the auction house. The emperor had personally acted as bait. If they could not get evidence of the divine master's crimes, it would be difficult in the future. Gu Qingyu was overseeing Holy City. He held the pseudo-world treasure divine sword in his hand. The main reason was that he could not completely control the pseudo-world treasure, so he could not use it to its peak. As for Go, he was born to be a brick. When he held the brick in his hand, he felt like he was one with it. Ji's approval of him was beyond imagination. Yi Qinghan brought Go, Jiang Jingtian, Li Feng, Mo Li, and the rest of the younger generation. They were ready to leave. Nangong Yunlan and some others stayed in Holy City to deal with political matters. The older generation's supreme gods, the Chaos Dragon, the first generation's sorcerer god, and supreme venerables were all summoned back. The Chaos Dragon turned into a tall and sturdy man. His draconic aura was vast and mighty. It was much purer than Yi Qinghan's draconic aura. His fighting power was not to be trifled with. The first generation's sorcerer god was more mysterious. He was closer to nature and was hard to grasp. However, he had deep feelings for the sorcerer race. If the Chaos Realm was destroyed, the sorcerer race would be extinct. Yi Qinghan had every reason to believe that he would not betray the Chaos Realm. As for the Supreme Celestial Venerate, he had a square face and a full beard. He looked very dignified and dangerous. His body was filled with destructive power, and his invincible aura suppressed people's souls. Perhaps it was related to his cultivation technique and the Nangong Holy Land. With the support of powerful resources, it was very easy for this group of people to become supreme gods of the snow element. Even the younger generation of the insane sect had all become supreme gods. Although there were not many of them, their fighting power was strong enough. They were all supreme kings of the younger generation. They had boundary weapons. At the same level, there were no less than 10 people who could fight against Mu Yunfeng and the others. The successor of the solitary sword sect, Lin Wutian, had not appeared in the world for a long time. Now that he had appeared, his fighting power was comparable to Gu Qingyu's. Yi Qinghan looked at him and thought back to the time when this child came to the insane sect alone with a wooden sword. He was very pleased. He had reached this step by relying on his own talent and strength. Xian Yanxue was still as wretched as before. He could compete with the divine bird. The two of them appreciated each other. As soon as they came out, they gathered together to discuss how to find the treasure. Yi Qinghan looked at the old man of the insane sect with excitement. This was the power to fight back. Only Yi Kuan, the troublemaker, was missing. Otherwise, there would be no regrets. At night, the left marshal's residence was quiet. A figure appeared in front of the left marshal's residence. It was Ling Huanyu, the top 5 supreme independent cultivator. I heard that the left marshal was back, so I came to visit. Please help me inform him, Ling Huanyu said politely to the guard. Ling Huanyu's name was known to almost everyone in the divine realm of the Snow Empire. The guard immediately informed Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan immediately got up and went to greet him personally. Outside the left marshal's residence, Yi Qinghan smiled and said, "I didn't know that you would come so late. Please forgive me for not coming out to meet you. I hope you won't be angry with me for disturbing you," Ling Huanyu said with a smile. "Please come in. We can talk inside." Yi Qinghan already had a plan to drag this super expert down with him. Ling Huanyu didn't expect that Yi Qinghan had already set him up. He followed Yi Qinghan into the left marshal's residence. "Sir, I'm here because of the secret divine art. I haven't been able to understand it yet." Ling Huanyu went straight to the point. He took out a stone tablet with a scroll carved on it. The runes were extremely difficult to decipher. They might not even be written in the 9 realms heaven. Ling Huanyu immediately handed the scroll to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan stroked the scroll on the stone tablet. This wasn't a scroll with inscriptions that he had seen before his death. The divine art engraved on it was also not something that he had come into contact with before his death. However, he was sure that once he comprehended this scroll, he would be very powerful. What a strange inscription. I've never seen this kind of writing before. Yi Qinghan was rather surprised. He had definitely seen the writing of all the experts in the 9 realms heaven. However, this scroll was indeed not from the 9 realms heaven. Ling Huanyu didn't interrupt Yi Qinghan. He just watched quietly. Yi Qinghan's consciousness sensed the fluctuations of the profound laws of the inscriptions. Comprehending one technique would allow one to comprehend all technique. The power system was different, but the end result was the same. Even if it wasn't a secret divine art from the 9 realms heaven, the essence was still the same. The realm lord's consciousness was attached to the scroll on the stone tablet. His eyes were tightly shut as his soul moved along with the profound fluctuations. A special power was produced in his body that was incompatible with the power of the world. The power of the world of the Snow Empire and the divine world rejected this power. However, this power quickly suppressed the supreme divine power of the snow attribute in his body and contended against the world origin force. What a powerful power! It can actually contend against the world origin force. I wonder how it compares to my great desolation divine power. Yi Qinghan's heart trembled. If this power didn't belong to the 9 realms heaven, where did it belong to? Although the power system of the 9 realms heaven's controller transcended the 9 realms heaven, it was compatible with any world origin force in the 9 realms heaven. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to control the 9 realms heaven. Maybe it's a product of the 9 realms heaven. However, I've never seen it before. During the peak era, I traveled through the vast divine desolate universe. Other than the 9 realms heaven, there shouldn't be any other world. Yi Qinghan said to himself with certainty. Seeing Yi Qinghan looking at the scroll with shock and infatuation, Ling Huanyu became even more nervous. He hoped that Yi Qinghan would be able to solve the mystery. Comprehending it together was better than not comprehending it at all. "Do you have any clues?" Ling Huanyu asked expectantly. Yi Qinghan withdrew his divine sense from the inscription. After thinking for a long time, he said, "This isn't the Snow Nation's divine realm's inscription. The power system it produces is completely different from the power system of the 9 realms heaven. It will be rejected by the world origin force. As far as I know, the power of the other 8 realms won't be rejected by the world origin force because we all belong to the 9 realms heaven. If my prediction isn't wrong, this thing comes from outside the 9 realms. The reason why I've been slow to update recently is because I'm proposing marriage. My girlfriend's house is rather far away, and it will take a few days to get there by plane. Therefore, I've been saving chapters recently. Therefore, no matter how much you guys urge me, it will only make me more anxious. I originally didn't want to say it, but there are too many abusive comments in the book review section. Everyone, please be friendly. Thank you. I also hope that everyone can subscribe to QQ Reading Support. My life has been handed over to this book, and I also hope that this book will have good results. Chapter 1334. Ling Huanyu looked at Yi Qinghan in shock. His eyes were filled with doubt. Were there any living creatures outside the 9 worlds? Impossible. Yi Qinghan looked at Ling Huanyu's bewildered and disappointed expression and sighed softly. This inscription on the scroll is very powerful. It's strong enough to contend against the world origin force and is far stronger than any of the divine powers in the Snow Empire's god realm. However, I'm afraid you'll be disappointed. This secret scroll can't be cultivated unless you leave the 9 heavens. This is because the stronger you cultivate, the stronger the repulsive force of the world origin force will be. Back then, when you started cultivating on the right track, you no longer belonged to the 9 heavens. Entering the 9 worlds is hopeless. Hearing this, Ling Huanyu was even more disappointed. He had obtained a treasure but could not cultivate it. It was almost impossible to obtain a suitable inscription. You may doubt my words. Attach your consciousness to mine. I will guide you to comprehend the mysterious waves on the inscription. You will understand, Yi Qinghan said seriously. Thank you, mister. I want to see it. Ling Huanyu nodded expectantly. Even if he had given up on cultivating it, he wanted to understand why. It was better to see it with his own eyes than to hear it from Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's divine sense, which was slightly stronger than a peak paramount god's soul, accompanied Ling Huanyu's soul as he tried to comprehend the profound fluctuations of the steels. After a long time, Ling Huanyu was finally able to comprehend a different type of power, but the origin power of the world knocked him away. His own divine sense left Yi Qinghan's divine sense, his face pale. Do you understand now? This is a power that doesn't belong to the 9 worlds, so the power of the 9 worlds is rejecting it. Perhaps this is also the reason why people from other worlds can't enter the 9 world. Giving up the 9 worlds for the sake of power is not worth the loss. Also, you can't leave the 9 worlds, which means you can't cultivate it, Yi Qinghan reminded him. Ling Huanyu sat down on the stool in disappointment. He had come full of joy, but all he got was disappointment. I am curious, where did you find this thing? Yi Qinghan asked curiously. I was accidentally pulled into a spatial storm at the border of the 9 world. I found it motionless in the storm, so I knew it was a treasure. However, I did not expect it to be a secret inscription that cannot be cultivated. Ling Huanyu smiled bitterly. Yi Qinghan placed the inscription scroll on the table in front of Ling Huanyu and looked at him quietly. Ling touched the inscription scroll reluctantly. It seemed that he longed for power. If he had the chance to leave the 9 worlds, he would not hesitate to cultivate this scroll. Yi Qinghan could tell that he was a madman when it came to cultivation. He was very stubborn, and would do anything as long as he was strong enough. Mister, do you like this scroll? If you like it, why don't I exchange it with you for some secret techniques that you can cultivate? You can even use resources to exchange for it. After a long time, Ling Huanyu finally gave up on the inscription scroll. He had no use for it at the moment, so he could not cultivate it. I do have some secret techniques that can help you reach the World Overlord realm. However, I'm afraid you won't dare to cultivate it. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and set up an array, isolating them from the outside world. Ling Huanyu looked at Yi Qinghan in astonishment and said proudly, Mister, it's not that you can't tell. If it's possible, I want to cultivate even this inscription scroll. I want to leave this world and explore the mysteries beyond the 9 world. I don't have the support of a family, so I don't know how to manage the power of the mortal world. I can't get a better cultivation technique. If there are better mysteries, is there any secret technique that I don't dare to cultivate? Great. Desolate. Tao. Scripture. Do you dare to cultivate it? Yi Qinghan asked word by word. Ling Huanyu's body tensed up and he sucked in a breath of cold air. The secret techniques of the Great Desolate Domain were forbidden from being cultivated. No one was allowed to cultivate them. Not to mention the legendary Great Desolate Tao Scripture. You have the Great Desolate Tao Scripture? Ling Huanyu asked in astonishment. Yi Qinghan smiled. He sat opposite Ling Huanyu and said indifferently, I have the first 6 stages of the Great Desolate Tao Scripture. I'm still missing the last 3 stages. As long as you dare to cultivate it, I can help you find the last 3 stages. I can even use my authority to help you obtain the resources of the Great Desolate Domain. What are your conditions? Ling Huanyu asked in a deep voice. Help me unify the 9 worlds. You can fly as high as the sky will be. Yi Qinghan's domineering aura soared to the heavens as he said firmly. Ling Huanyu's pupils contracted and he almost couldn't breathe. His dream of becoming a world overlord was already lofty enough. However, he didn't expect this seemingly cultured and refined left marshal to be even crazier than him. He was simply a supreme lunatic in the world of lunatic. Are you joking with me? Ling Huanyu asked with a frown. It seems like you were joking when you said you dared to cultivate the Great Desolate Tao Scripture. Yi Qinghan said indifferently. Of course not. Ling Huanyu said with a frown. Since you dare to cultivate the Great Desolate Tao Scripture, why can't I unify the 9 worlds? Yi Qinghan asked with a smile. The two of them looked at each other for a long time. Suddenly, they burst into laughter and said in unison, You're a lunatic. So am I. The laughter in the courtyard didn't stop for a long time. After a long time, Yi Qinghan put away the steel inscription scroll and passed the first 6 stages of the Great Desolate Tao Scripture to Ling Huanyu through his consciousness. He reminded him in a serious voice, Remember, if you don't want to die, before you become a world overlord, don't use the secret techniques of the Great Desolate Tao realm, let alone the Great Desolate Force. Otherwise, you will die miserably, just like the destruction of the Great Desolate Domain. I understand. Ling Huanyu nodded solemnly. I want to ask you something. What do you think about the chaotic war of the 9 worlds? Yi Qinghan asked curiously. Ling Huanyu shrugged and replied indifferently, It's just racial discrimination. The Great Desolate Domain is too strong. It caused the other 7 worlds to be disgusted and join forces to resist. It's reasonable. This is how humans think. They are jealous of evil, virtuous, capable, and the strong. They hate ugly, cruel, weak, and incapable people. No one can be perfect. No matter how perfect you are, there will always be people who will find fault with you. Therefore, I don't hate the Great Desolate Domain or the other worlds. I only care about things, not people. Therefore, I don't dislike the secret techniques of the Great Desolate Domain. Wise men live forever. Lunatics are the king. I hope we can cooperate happily. Yi Qinghan smiled. The cooperation between the 2 lunatics had reached an agreement. Happy cooperation. At this moment, Ling Huanyu felt an inexplicable admiration and worship for Yi Qinghan. For the first time, he was conquered by his charisma. Tomorrow, I'll be going to the auction house to buy some things. Brother Ling, come with me. If there's anything you like, just name a price. I'll give it to you, Yi Qinghan said generously. Straightforward. For someone like me who doesn't have any restrictions, wherever I go is my home. The day the 9 worlds return to one is the day I can dance freely in the universe, Ling Huanyu said straightforwardly. Chapter 1335. Ling Huanyu readily agreed to Yi Qinghan's suggestion, but he didn't know that he had already stepped into Yi Qinghan's trap. Once he was dragged down, he wouldn't be able to escape even if he wanted to. Yi Qinghan's lips twitched, causing Ling Huanyu's hairs to stand on end. He felt as though he had fallen into an icy cavern. You can't be thinking of harming me, right? Ling Huanyu asked with a frown. Yi Qinghan immediately replied righteously, What are you talking about? You can ask around. Those who are familiar with me know that I'm a gentleman. Which of my brothers hasn't gone through life and death situations together? Seeing Yi Qinghan's righteous expression, Ling Huanyu still felt a little uneasy, but he reluctantly accepted it. After settling Ling Huanyu, Yi Qinghan returned to his residence with a smile on his face. He was in an exceptionally good mood, and he specially called Sister Yao over to serve him. Master seems to be in a good mood. Seeing the unconcealable smile on Yi Qinghan's solemn face, Sister Yao couldn't help but exclaim in delight. A joyous occasion makes one feel refreshed. Wife, come and serve me, Yi Qinghan sang in a strange voice. After which, Yi Qinghan forcefully pounced on her, taking the initiative to attack. Sister Yao was so excited that she took the initiative to welcome him. Thousands of pounces caused her soul to tremble. The night passed quickly and the sky gradually brightened. The people of the left marshal's residence were already making preparations for their departure. Yi Qinghan hugged the perfect Sister Yao lazily, as though nothing in the world had anything to do with him. Get up, it's not good for others to see us like this. Yi Qinghan's joyous mood was suppressed, and his expression turned cold once more. Sister Yao leaned against his chest and said softly, Master, what do you intend to do about the bride from the Wang clan? You can't possibly leave her hanging, right? You haven't even consummated your marriage yet. Yi Qinghan was silent for a long time before he replied hoarsely, Let's talk about it in the future. I don't have the time to worry about her right now. With a sigh, Sister Yao put on her clothes and got up. She brought a basin of hot water over for Yi Qinghan to wash up before heading out together with him. 13 experts from the Primal Chaos realm and 10,000 soldiers from the Snow realm protected the 9th prince and Yi Qinghan as they departed. Ling Huanyu was quietly mixed in with the crowd. He was the only unpredictable force. Mu Yunfeng and the Divine Master would never have predicted that he would follow Yi Qinghan. The Divine Bird and Xian Yanxue had their arms around each other's shoulders. They were secretly discussing something. No one knew what they were planning. Yi Qinghan never wanted to ask about the Divine Bird and Xian Yanxue. As long as they didn't lose out, they could do anything. The army galloped forward. Their mounts were the best snow wolves. The banner of the wolf cavalry fluttered in the wind. Wherever they passed, the relay stations would quickly provide supplies and replace the best snow wolf. The snow wolves were 3 meters tall. They had powerful limbs that could crush rock. Their running speed was comparable to a peak giant god. Furthermore, they were very patient. They could run at their fastest speed for 3 to 5 days. There were too many people in the army. They couldn't use teleportation and could only travel long distances. For safety, Yi Qinghan naturally wouldn't use too much energy to teleport. There was still about half a year before the auction. The group wandered along the way, giving the 9th prince some distraction. The 9th prince was free and unfettered. However, he didn't know that he could be killed at any time. He had already thrown out the bait and was waiting for Mu Yunfeng and the Divine Sect to make their move. Along the way, the various prefecture heads and overlords were diligent. Every time they arrived at a prefecture, there would be hundreds of thousands of ordinary soldiers guarding them. They would safely escort them out of the prefecture. Another prefecture would pick them up at the border. They were all afraid that the new emperor and the left marshal would meet with an accident in their territory. Yi Qinghan didn't want to refuse. Otherwise, it would be too obvious. The journey was safe. The Divine Master didn't want to cause the Realm Master to come out of seclusion by massacring hundreds of thousands of soldiers. Mu Yunfeng didn't dare to go overboard. Even if he was the Realm Master's disciple, he wouldn't be able to escape death. In the end, the Realm Master still cared about his direct descendant. After all, blood was thicker than water. After crossing more than 10 prefectures, they headed straight for the auction house. 3 months later, the army finally arrived at the 9 Emperor's prefecture. This was the territory of the late Emperor's 9th brother, who was also the 9th Prince's 9th uncle. This place was named the 9 Emperor's prefecture. Snow 9th Emperor. This person was once a genius of his generation. He had a powerful cultivation and served the Snow Realm army. However, hundreds of thousands of years ago, in order to show his attitude, he didn't want to fight for the throne. He voluntarily retreated to the 9 Emperors' prefecture and became the Prince of Peace. He was deeply loved by the late emperor. The 9th prince also liked this 9th uncle. They had met several times. He purposely looked for Yi Qinghan and asked, "Mister, the 9 Emperor's prefecture is in front of us. It's my 9th uncle's territory. I haven't seen him for many years. Can we go and pay him a visit?" Yi Qinghan knew about Snow 9th Emperor's identity. He was also very curious about this person. In the past, he could have fought for the throne. However, he mysteriously chose to give up. Otherwise, there wouldn't be the Snow Marshal and the late Emperor. "Let's go and take a look. There's still time," Yi Qinghan said faintly. After obtaining Yi Qinghan's permission, the 9th prince was filled with joy. He thought that Yi Qinghan still respected him. He was in high spirits and personally led the army to the 9 Emperors' prefecture. Snow 9th Emperor had already known that the 9th prince was approaching his territory under Yi Qinghan's lead. He sent his most outstanding son, Xuefeng, to personally lead the army to the border to welcome them. Yi Qinghan silently followed behind. Tong Tong rode on the same horse as him. However, little Tong didn't follow. This operation was too dangerous. If the divine sect really took action, who knew how many people would die? The snow wolves in front howled in unison. Hua! The army at the border of the 9 Emperors' prefecture roared in unison. Their voices shook the heavens. The momentum of the private army didn't lose to the snow border army. Yi Qinghan was shocked. He looked at the army at the border of the 9 Emperors' prefecture with admiration in his eyes. This Snow 9th Emperor is definitely not an ordinary person. Yi Qinghan secretly praised. Yi Qinghan slightly increased his speed and caught up to the front. He was shoulder to shoulder with the emperor. His eyes were like torches as he stared at the leader of the army at the border of the 9 Emperors' prefecture. His eyes emitted a terrifying radiance. His heartbeat sped up and his blood flowed rapidly. Is it an illusion? Why do I feel the aura of a desolate person? Yi Qinghan looked at the young leader in shock. He had a feeling of disbelief. After the desolate women in the snow country and the divine world became slaves, they would be executed if they were pregnant. It was impossible for them to be descendants of the desolate race. Although this person's desolate race bloodline was suppressed and very weak, as the desolate race's father, Yi Qinghan, it was impossible for him not to feel it. As he got closer to the young man, Yi Qinghan became more and more certain that this person definitely had the desolate race bloodline. "Mister, the young leader is my cousin, Xuefeng. His cultivation is quite good, but the 9th imperial uncle doesn't want him to leave the 9 Emperors' prefecture. He also doesn't let him fight. He rarely leaves the prefecture. It seems like the imperial uncle still likes me." The 9th prince smiled happily. Yi Qinghan also revealed a faint smile. From the 9th prince's words, the Snow 9th Emperor knew that Xuefeng had the desolate race bloodline. Otherwise, he wouldn't have suppressed him and prevented him from leaving the 9 Emperors' prefecture. Chapter 1336. Since Xuefeng had the bloodline of the wilderness, his mother must have been a desolate slave. Perhaps she was still alive. Yi Qinghan looked at Xuefeng with pity in his eyes. Regardless of whether Xuefeng recognized him or his father, he would still treat Xuefeng as a citizen of the wilderness. "Xuefeng greets your majesty and Marshal Zhua." Xuefeng was handsome, tall, and domineering. He had the aura of a citizen of the wilderness. He was definitely not an ordinary young master. There was a kind of fighting spirit in his bones that was especially eye-catching. His voice sounded as if he had lived for thousands of years. There was a hint of melancholy in his eyes. No wonder he was the most handsome man in the 9 Emperors' continent and was sought after by many ladies. "Cousin, we are outside the palace. Don't be so formal. I am visiting incognito." Cough. The ninth prince hurriedly stepped forward and helped Xuefeng up. His tone was filled with pride. Yi Qinghan jumped down from the war wolf and put his hands behind his back. His dark eyes looked at Xuefeng, filled with different emotions. Xuefeng noticed that Yi Qinghan's emotions were filled with pity and affection like that of an elder. He lowered his head shyly. Facing Yi Qinghan, there was a sense of submission in his bones. There was even a kind of excitement in his heart. There was a voice telling him not to profane the person in front of him. "Sir, you must be tired from the journey. My father has already prepared food and wine in the mansion. Please follow me." Xuefeng gestured with his hand. Yi Qinghan replied with a hoarse voice. He nodded and said, "Your Majesty, please." 10,000 snow wolf riders galloped toward the center of the Nine Emperors' continent under the escort of the army. Past the Nine Emperors' continent was the auction house. There were many people on the road who seemed to be rushing there. Some even followed the army for safety reasons. However, the ninth prince did not chase them away to show his benevolence. After entering a city, Yi Qinghan ordered the Snow Wolf cavalry to move forward slowly while he led the ninth prince and the rest of the crazy sect to teleport to the center of the Nine Emperors state, the residence of the Nine Emperors. The residence of the Nine Emperors looked very ordinary, but it was very majestic. There were only 2 senile guards around, and they were only there to guard the door. The residence was not big, and it looked more like an ordinary family. Occasionally, a few young men and women would come out of the red door, and they were all wearing plain clothes. No one would believe that this was the residence of the Nine Emperors. My father is used to being thrifty and never likes to be extravagant and wasteful. Your Majesty, please don't be angry, Xuefeng said with a smile. I understand royal uncle's temper. Let's go in. The ninth prince looked at Yi Qinghan and spoke in a questioning tone. Yi Qinghan nodded and then signaled to Shirgu and the rest with his eyes. They scattered around the residence of the Nine Emperors and did not allow any suspicious people to come close. This was because this dark and gloomy residence was actually hiding a living desolate slave. Xuefeng might not be the only descendant of the great wilderness. Yi Qinghan stepped into the residence of the Nine Emperors with excitement and anticipation. The path was rugged and extended, and it was very simple. There were pavilions on both sides of the path, and hundreds of flowers bloomed. It was very beautiful. The buildings in the residence were not very tall, and they looked like the buildings of the great wilderness. It seemed that the Nine Emperors loved the desolate slave very much. Otherwise, he would not have given up the huge empire for her and decorated his residence like this. The Nine Emperors did not come out to welcome them, but many experts appeared in the residence where the family gathered. They looked at the entrance curiously, as if they wanted to see the current emperor and the left marshal, who was at the peak of his power. Brother, a girl's clear and melodious voice sounded. Yi Qinghan looked over and saw a girl about 11 or 13 years old. Her hair was tied up in a ponytail, and she was dressed very simply. The light in her eyes was very pure, and she was full of spiritual energy. However, she was actually a mortal. She did not cultivate at all, and there were no fluctuations of divine power. Yi Qinghan looked at the little girl and almost lost control of his emotions. His fingertips trembled, and his eyes were filled with astonishment. Great wilderness spiritual body. A rare sovereign treasured body, this. Yi Qinghan said to himself hoarsely in his heart, and he fiercely suppressed his excitement. Such a sovereign treasured body could at least nurture an expert at the level of Huang Peng, an ultimate sovereign, which was only second to the realm lord. If Huang Peng, the dragon's resentment, and the others had not supported him back then, the great wilderness domain would not have lasted for so long. Without a doubt, the Nine Emperors would not allow her to cultivate such a sovereign treasured body. Not only was he afraid that her identity would be exposed, but he also did not want her to threaten the rule of the divine world of Snow Country. Letting her be immortal for the rest of her life was the best choice. Xue Feng looked at the little girl, and his eyes were full of doting. Perhaps it was because the family rules did not allow her to cultivate, and he always felt that he owed her. Originally, she could have endless years, but now, she only had a few decades. Emperor Spirit, didn't Father not allow you to come out? Why are you disobedient again? Xue Feng asked gently. It's so boring. I'm the only one in the courtyard all day. Father and Mother have no time to accompany me. When I heard that His Majesty came, I wanted to come and see. The Snow Emperor Spirit stuck out her tongue and said. Yi Qinghan looked at the Snow Emperor Spirit, and his eyes were full of love. It was a kind of love that transcended everything, just like the love a father had for his daughter. The father of the Great Desolation and the Great Desolation Spirit met. When the two met, they had an extraordinary feeling in their hearts. The Snow Emperor Spirit stared at Yi Qinghan, and her eyes were full of admiration and respect, but more than that, she was happy, although she did not know that Yi Qinghan was the father of the Great Desolation. She was a very cute girl, but like a bird in a golden cage, she was always bound. Maybe it was to protect her, but for her it was also a kind of torture. She was not allowed to go out on normal days, and no one could stand it. But she had endured it for 7 or 8 years, and even felt that it was natural. Yi Qinghan and the Snow Emperor Spirit looked at each other, and it was as if they had known each other for thousands of years, which surprised Xue Feng. I like the aura on my brother's body. The Snow Emperor Spirit looked at Yi Qinghan excitedly and said. Yi Qinghan smiled and reached out to hold the Snow Emperor Spirit's hand. He said gently, You are also very cute. In the future, you will definitely be one of the strongest girls. I can't cultivate, the Snow Emperor Spirit said, feeling wronged. Yi Qinghan smiled and did not explain. Instead, he followed Xue Feng and the 9th Prince into the main hall of the 9th Emperor's residence. He looked around, trying to find the mother of the Snow Emperor Spirit, the desolate slave. After searching for a long time, he did not find her. His divine sense began to spread out unscrupulously, and finally, he found a young and beautiful girl in a quiet courtyard. Her body was emitting a faint but very weak power of desolation. Yi Qinghan used his divine sense to observe the girl. There were no other maids or guards in the courtyard, and she was the only one who was fiddling with the flowers and spirit fruits in the courtyard. He was sure that this person was the desolate slave, and she had survived by coincidence. Perhaps it was because of her kindness and gentleness that the 9th Emperor gave up fighting for the throne and settled down in a corner. Chapter 1337. Yi Qinghan secretly found the desolate slaves, but he did not show any extreme reaction. Although he was anxious to know how the survivors of the great wilderness lived in the bitter desolate prison, he had waited for so long that his heart was as steady as a rock. In the main hall there was a dignified middle-aged man. He was even more powerful than the Snow Marshal. He had a square face and unparalleled vigor. His eyes were deep, and the aura of an emperor was not inferior to that of the previous emperor. In fact, he was even stronger and more respectable. His hair was as black as ink and his eyes were shining. He gave off a kind and wise feeling. The moment Yi Qinghan stepped into the main hall, he was attracted by this person. He felt a sense of vigilance deep in his heart. He felt that if there was anyone in the snow country who could ruin his plans, it would definitely be Xue Zhihuang. Xue Zhihuang watched the 9th Prince and the others enter the main hall, but he did not pay much attention to them. Instead, he looked down at Yi Qinghan, as if he wanted to see through him. The main hall was not big, but it had a vicissitude ancient charm. The pressure was very heavy and the hall was silent. Even the breathing could be heard. Xue Zhihuang did not speak, and even the 9th Prince did not dare to be arrogant. The left marshal has single-handedly controlled the holy city. He suppressed the holy city by himself, brought order to the chaos, and suppressed 2 sovereign kings. I thought he was an old wise man, but I did not expect him to be a sovereign king of the younger generation. I am impressed. After a long time, Xue Zhihuang slowly stood up. His voice was like thunder, hoarse and deep. It was very comfortable to listen to. However, Yi Qinghan did not feel comfortable. This was because he felt that Xue Zhihuang was suspicious and vigilant. Although he was not the previous emperor, he was a direct descendant of the imperial family. He naturally did not want the authority of the imperial family to fall into the hands of an outsider. It was all thanks to the imperial clan's elders and the many ministers working together to protect the imperial clan's orthodoxy and uphold the late emperor's decree. Otherwise, with this general's ability, how could I have intimidated Mianfeng and Ji Gu, 2 great supreme kings? Therefore, I feel very guilty about the 9th emperor's praise. I do not dare to accept it. Yi Qinghan bowed slightly and explained in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. It's not easy to do this. I can only do this much when I go back. Since my brother's last wish is for little Nine to be the emperor, it cannot be changed by outsiders. This is the will of the royal family. I thank you on behalf of the royal family for your loyalty. Xue Nine Emperor stared at Yi Qinghan and said calmly, Your Highness is too polite. This is what this general should do. Yi Qinghan cupped his fists and replied, Take a seat. There's nothing much to entertain, just a simple banquet. Little Nine, since you're the emperor, don't just enjoy life. You have to learn how to govern the country. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask the left general. If you need help, inform Imperial Uncle, and I'll do my best to help. Xue Nine Emperor looked at the 9th prince. He did not treat him as an emperor, but as a nephew. This was a supreme authority, but the 9th prince did not dare to complain. Yes. Don't worry, Imperial Uncle. I won't let you down. The 9th prince quickly nodded and replied. Xue Nine Emperor was very satisfied with the 9th prince's humility. He was afraid that the 9th prince would be arrogant after becoming the emperor. It seemed that the previous emperor's decision was correct. Finally, Xue Nine Emperor looked at the Snow Emperor's spirit. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he said hoarsely, Go back! Who let you out? The Snow Emperor's spirit was so scared that her face turned pale. She kept retreating and wanted to leave the hall, but Yi Qinghan stopped her. Yi Qinghan frowned and asked seriously, Your Highness, you're so strict with such an adorable and obedient princess. I feel like I've known her for a long time. If you don't mind, I'm willing to accept her as my disciple and take her as my goddaughter. What do you think? Yi Qinghan asked seriously. My daughter is clumsy and has no talent in cultivation. You think too highly of her. Let her leave. Xue Nine Emperor's aura changed and he said firmly. His tone was overbearing and there was no room for negotiation. The corners of Yi Qinghan's mouth curled up into a smile. He gradually released her hand and signaled for her to leave first. In the end, even Xue Feng was driven out of the hall by Xue Nine Emperor. Only Yi Qinghan, Xue Nine Emperor, and the 9th prince had a simple meal in the hall. At the dinner table, the 9th Emperor beat around the bush and secretly warned Yi Qinghan not to threaten the emperor to order his vassals around, to influence the will of the imperial family, and to blaspheme the dignity of the imperial family. Yi Qinghan cleverly answered all of his questions, and the 9th prince did not want to offend Yi Qinghan. Furthermore, Yi Qinghan had been very respectful to him from the beginning to the end. He would always ask for the 9th prince's opinion and did not leave any loopholes. Xue Nine Emperor was very satisfied with Yi Qinghan's performance. I still have one more thing on my mind. 5th brother, I want to know who assassinated him. Do you have any clues? Xue Nine Emperor's eyes flashed with murderous intent as he asked coldly. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists and pretended to be angry. We don't even need to investigate to know that it was done by the master of the divine sect. Other than him, Who else could have forged the Imperial Army Commander's decree? Other than him, who else could have killed Commander Shui without a sound? But we can't find any clues or excuses, so we can't avenge Commander Yun. Shui 9 Emperor was silent for a long time. He crushed the cup in his hand. The coldness in his eyes was very oppressive. The 9th Prince kept quiet out of fear. This was the real power of the Emperor. The legends were true. If Shui 9 Emperor did not withdraw from the fight for the throne, the previous Emperor would not have been able to become Emperor. Yi Qinghan's face was filled with anger as he continued, "That night, my left commander's residence and all the ministers loyal to His Majesty, including Commander Shui, were attacked. If someone in my residence did not see through the master of the divine sect's identity, the left commander's residence would have been razed to the ground. The master of the divine sect is too arrogant and does not put the imperial family in his eyes. However, they are deeply rooted in the imperial family, and I am not strong enough to fight against them. I hope that the 9th Emperor can help me. Even if we cannot avenge Commander Shui, we should let the divine sect know that the imperial family's power is not to be blasphemed." Boom! Shui 9 Emperor's cup powder turned into the sharpest hidden weapon and pierced through the door. His murderous intent rose. He suddenly stood up and roared, "Divine sect, did I give you too much face? Do you think that you can bully the imperial family just because there is no one else? Since you don't give me face, don't blame me for being ruthless." 9th Emperor, please calm down. Yi Qinghan stood up and cupped his fist. How could Shui 9 Emperor calm down? He had the best relationship with Commander Shui when he was young. Now that Commander Shui's body was still cold, he could not take revenge. Yi Qinghan bowed and said, "Actually, what I am most worried about is that the master of the divine sect will take action against His Majesty. This time, we have been very careful along the way and have brought the army with us. The left commander's residence has sent out all the experts, but we still cannot guarantee His Majesty's safety. Therefore, I beg His Majesty to stay in the 9th Emperor's residence and wait for me to bid for the pseudo-world artifact and give it to His Majesty." The divine sect is really daring. They even dare to assassinate His Majesty. Is there anything they don't dare to do? Shui 9 Emperor's eyes flashed coldly as his murderous intent rose. He clenched his fists and said, "Since you are so crazy, I will give you a chance. We can settle the old and new debts together so that I can uproot the divine sect." Chapter 1338. Yi Qinghan looked at Shui 9 Emperor's rage and sneered in his heart. He had put in so much effort just for Shui 9 Emperor to help him suppress the divine sect and get rid of the assassin organization, Heaven. Kill with a borrowed knife. Yi Qinghan waited for Shui 9 Emperor to propose his plan. As expected, Shui 9 Emperor said coldly, "This time, I will lure the snake out of its hole. I will disguise myself as Little 9 and catch them all." Yi Qinghan looked at Shui 9 Emperor with admiration. He obviously liked such a ruthless character. The more ruthless and strong, the better. 9th Emperor, this plan is too dangerous for you. I originally planned to put His Majesty in the mansion and be the bait myself. Yi Qinghan said deliberately. Shui 9 Emperor was not afraid of such danger. He snorted and said indifferently, "How can you catch a tiger cub if you don't enter the tiger's den? This king has climbed a mountain of blades and plunged into a sea of fire. What kind of danger has this king not taken? Why would I care about a small divine sect? Your Highness is indeed worthy of your reputation. I am impressed. Since your Highness is willing to take the risk, your plan should be similar to mine. I have transferred all the experts from the left marshal's residence and prepared to fight to the death with the divine sect. We also need to protect the dignity of the imperial family. If your Highness is willing to help, our chances of success will be higher." Yi Qinghan said with an excited expression as he bowed. Nine Emperor's majestic aura radiated in all directions. He moved slowly and 10,000 techniques followed him. I, Nine Emperor, came to power when I was 18 years old. I have been in seclusion for tens of thousands of years. However, the divine world of Shui country is still under my control. I have more men of sacrifice than the left marshal's residence. Nine Emperor's aura was very strong. His words were arrogant and commanding. If it was an ordinary person, they would definitely submit. Yi Qinghan naturally would not reject Nine Emperor as a pawn. The people from the left marshal's residence were all his brothers. He could not bear to see any of them die. Ninth Emperor, what if the divine sect notices something wrong and does not dare to take action? Yi Qinghan asked. Nine Emperor sneered and said hoarsely, shifting the blame? All I need is an excuse. Ruthless indeed. He had the same idea as the divine bird. Yi Qinghan clenched his fist. He did not expect Nine Emperor to be so decisive. Once he wanted to take action, he had no scruples. This was a country's weapon. Unsheath. As your highness orders. Yi Qinghan bowed and replied. With Xue Jiawang's support, he wasn't afraid of the divine sect. No matter how hard they would be able to bite through them. The Ninth Snow Emperor ordered someone to make a human skin mask. It was very detailed and exquisite, and it was exactly the same as the Ninth Prince's. The Ninth Snow Emperor also imitated the Ninth Prince's every move. However, the Ninth Snow Emperor's royal aura was much stronger than the Ninth Prince's. Shrinking his bones and changing his physical body, Nine Emperor became the real Ninth Prince. He had a strong royal aura and looked more like an emperor than the Ninth Prince. The Ninth Prince looked at Nine Emperor in a daze. Even he felt ashamed. This kind of emperor was a real emperor. He was just a puppet emperor who only knew how to enjoy life. However, he did not dare to speak nonsense. Perhaps he felt sorry for Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan was loyal to him, but he sent people to assassinate Yi Qinghan. At this time, he wanted to give Yi Qinghan more trust. He felt that having a loyal and powerful assistant minister would save him a lot of trouble. The Ninth Prince was probably the type of person who was lacking in ambition. Xuefeng, bring His Majesty to rest in the residence. Do not leave the inner courtyard. Do not tell anyone that His Majesty is in the residence. Just say that I am in seclusion and no one is to disturb me. Nine Emperor said sternly. Yes, Father. Father. Xuefeng immediately walked in from outside the palace and replied respectfully. Yi Qinghan smiled as he looked at Nine Emperor's large group of death warriors. They were all powerful people with terrifying cultivation. There were no less than 20 of them, and more than 100 of them were at the peak of the giant god realm. They were all hidden among the Snow Wolf riders. The rest of the Snow Wave riders were placed in the Nine Emperor residence. Let's go. We will go directly to the auction house. Nine Emperor stood in the middle of the army and said in a low voice. Yi Qinghan rode on the huge Snow Wolf, protecting the dragon palanquin as they sped towards the auction house. Many experts from the left marshal's residence were also protecting the dragon palanquin. It was obvious that the emperor was sitting inside. Spies were flying in all directions. Eagles were crying, but there was no killing intent. The divine sect had probably started to gather information. Feeling the spy's aura, Yi Qinghan was not surprised. Instead, he was happy. He was afraid that the divine sect would not make a move. When the auction house heard that the emperor and left marshal were coming, the house master personally led the army to welcome them. Greetings, Your Majesty. Greetings, left marshal. The auction house master was full of smiles as he led a group of powerful elders and bowed. Greetings, senior house master. Your Majesty must be tired from the journey. Can you arrange for a rest at the relay station? Yi Qinghan got off the Snow Wolf's back and said in a dignified manner. This old man has already prepared the relay station. Come with me quickly. The house master was old and doddering. He was very kind and had the demeanor of an immortal. His brows were full of vigor, and his aura was awe-inspiring. "Thank you, House Master Mu." Yi Qinghan cupped his fists and said, "Mister, you are too polite. It is the Mu family's honor to serve your majesty and Mr. Zhuo." The old house master of the Mu family immediately bowed and replied. The auction house was a super conglomerate second only to the Wang family. The Mu family's status in the Snow Nation and God Realm might not be as high as the Wang family's, but in the Seven Realms, the Mu family's status was much higher than the Wang family's. Shuizhi did not say anything. In terms of wisdom, the house master of the Mu family was definitely at the super almighty level. His identity could be seen from his words and actions. Ling Huanyu lowered his head and didn't say anything. He was relatively famous in the crowd, and it was easy for people to recognize him. Moreover, there were some old acquaintances in the Mu family. Although they weren't ranked in the top 5 supreme kings, their cultivation and fame definitely wouldn't lose out to them. The Mu family's Mu Junxing, the auction house's young housemaster, was like a god. However, he only liked to take care of the auction house and rarely competed with outsiders. Therefore, he was not in the top 5 supremes. However, many people knew that once he made a move, he would definitely not be weaker than a supreme's. "Mr. Zhuo, I am worried that the Mu family will recognize me. Once I am exposed, the divine sect will definitely find out." Ling Huanyu transmitted his voice in a low voice. Yi Qinghan frowned. People were afraid of fame and pigs were afraid of being fat. This pig was too fat. Who in the world did not know that? "When we reach the relay station, don't come out. Wait for the auction to start," Yi Qinghan said indifferently. At this moment, the Divine Bird and Xian Yanxue left the army and moved towards the southwest. Yi Qinghan looked at their departing figures and said to Tong Tong, "Follow them. Don't let anything happen to them. If they are in danger, don't do anything. Come back to me immediately." Okay. Tong Tong had been contaminated by the Divine Bird's thoughts these days. He was also much more optimistic and was no longer that stubborn. Chapter 1339. The Divine Bird had gone somewhere with Xian Yanxue, and Tong Tong was following behind them. Yi Qinghan wasn't worried. No matter how strong a person was, it would take a long time to kill Tong Tong. There was enough time for him to help. After that, Yi Qinghan brought Shuizhi into the relay station to rest. After some discussion, Yi Qinghan finally notified the Wang family. The Wang family had suffered a loss at the hands of the divine sect, and they had long wanted revenge. Now that Wang Zhongjue knew that they were going to uproot the divine sect, he excitedly brought dozens of super experts from the God of Fortune City to the auction house. He was prepared to cooperate with Yi Qinghan to defeat the divine sect. Most importantly, he wanted to obtain the pseudo-world artifact, or at least buy its materials. Xiaoye quietly appeared and hid in an inn. It was only one street away from the relay station that Yi Qinghan was in. Yi Qinghan and Xiaoye looked across the street and smiled faintly. The relay station was heavily guarded, but it seemed a bit loose. The soldiers all exuded a kind of arrogance, as if no one dared to attack the relay station. These unconscious actions would naturally be remembered by others. Yi Qinghan's eyes were blurred. His divine sense roamed around, looking for traces of the divine sect and heaven's assassins. However, he didn't find anyone from heaven. Instead, he found some strange movements in the fragrance pavilion. Could it be the beautiful sky pavilion? Yi Qinghan's lips curled. No matter where the assassin came from, as long as he made a move, divine sect would not be able to escape responsibility. Even if they were unrelated, he would still frame them. Even if Yantian Pavilion didn't make a move, he would find someone from hell to do it. He would pretend to be heaven's assassins and frame heaven. Tap, 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 Yi Qinghan's fingertips tapped on the wooden planks of the balcony, then returned to his room to cultivate. Large amounts of heavenly treasures and divine materials were swallowed. The entire relay station exuded a thick divine aura and heavenly spiritual energy. The supreme fluctuations grew stronger, but they were blocked by the array outside the relay station. The outside world didn't know that Yi Qinghan was crazily attacking the bottleneck of the supreme stage. Shuizhihuang's room was right next to Yi Qinghan's. At this moment, he opened his eyes in shock. Looking at Yi Qinghan's room, his hair stood on end. He felt extremely threatened. What a powerful marshal's wa! This old man has underestimated you. I thought you were an intelligent expert, but I didn't expect you to be proficient in both the pen and the sword. You have already reached the peak of both. Shui-9 Emperor's eyes were filled with worry. If Yi Qinghan truly supported the ninth prince, the empire would definitely be stronger than before. They would no longer be restricted by the other superpowers. They would be able to take down the Archaean sect, destroy heaven and hell, and then destroy half of the world's largest financial group. Then, the divine nation's royal family would definitely dominate the empire. I hope you don't disappoint this old man. If you use the Son of Heaven to order his vassals around, this king will clear the monarch's rules and kill the treacherous officials. Inside the room, Yi Qinghan's blood vessels were clearly visible. Divine power flowed and the room was flooded with precious light. All the spirit pets in his body benefited from it and were frantically devouring divine power. The little money grubber woke up from his muddle-headedness. His belly was so big that it was almost round. The little money grubber was pregnant. He didn't even know if this strange creature was oviparous or viviparous. Ah! Oh my God! Pregnancy is so painful. The little money grubber stretched and ran to Yi Qinghan's side. She looked left and right, but she couldn't find the divine bird. Yi Qinghan didn't have time to pay attention to her and allowed her to jump up and down. Where is that B***tch bird? The little money grubber asked in a muffled voice. It went to earn milk powder for your child. Yi Qinghan didn't even open his eyes. He divided his divine sense into several parts and said in a low voice, "That's more like it." The little money grubber was finally satisfied. Yi Qinghan fell silent again. He formed a seal with his palms and the 8 trigrams seal appeared in front of his chest and spun at a high speed. The god-slaying eagle and the little chaotic beast in his body benefited the most. The genes of the 2 divine beasts were changed. The desolate divine power rolled and rolled in their bodies and rushed directly into their blood vessels. Boom! 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 The little beast and the god-slaying eagle quickly absorbed the divine power to strengthen themselves. However, Yi Qinghan's divine power was too majestic. It was like a boundless sea. The god-slaying eagle and the little chaotic beast couldn't withstand the surging divine power in Yi Qinghan's body and were forced out. After the 2 divine beasts were forced out of their bodies, they stood at the side in a daze. They looked at Yi Qinghan's black hair dancing wildly. His divine power was swift and fierce. The snow elemental divine power almost froze time and space. The little money grubber was so frozen that she escaped from the room. The entire relay station couldn't withstand the pressure from Yi Qinghan's body. At this moment, Shuizhihuang opened his eyes slightly. He waved his hand gently and the cold air that froze time and space quickly dispersed. The entire relay station became unusually warm. Boom! At this moment, Yi Qinghan burst forth with an even colder snow elemental divine power. The bottleneck of the high-to-high tier was broken by a thunderous force. A surge of divine power rushed into the Star River and spread in all directions. However, Shuizhihuang rushed out of the room and released an even more ferocious divine power to envelop Yi Qinghan's room. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't break through Yi Qinghan's defense. Shuizhihuang was too powerful. He was definitely stronger than Marshal Snow. He was stronger than anyone below the Realm Lord. Even little Yu wasn't a match for him. Yi Qinghan quickly withdrew his divine power. He could feel that Xuejihuang was helping him. Otherwise, the relay station would be destroyed. Hua! Yi Qinghan's aura became even more charming. He was like a god. He stood up gently and pushed open the door. When he saw Xuejihuang staring at him expressionlessly, he couldn't help but smile bitterly and say, "Thank you, Ninth Emperor, for taking action personally. Otherwise, the innocent would have been hurt. You are very strong. Not bad. However, you overestimate yourself. When you are breaking through, you are not allowed to cultivate in the city. Don't hurt the innocent." Xuejihuang warned indifferently. "Yes. Thank you, Ninth Emperor, for your reminder." Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly and shook his head. The power that erupted from breaking through the bottleneck this time was beyond his imagination. He thought that he could control it by himself. However, it was obvious that the amount of divine power in his body was beyond his imagination. Xuejihuang was a man of few words. After he finished speaking, he turned around and left. Yi Qinghan clenched his fist. He felt that this punch could destroy the body of a low-level supreme god. Even if his opponent was at his peak, he wouldn't be able to withstand this punch. Not bad. I have finally recovered some of my strength. Yi Qinghan muttered to himself. The relay station was filled with people from the insane sect and the death warriors. No one said anything. They all knew that Yi Qinghan had broken through. Southwest of the auction house, there was a huge divine herb garden. There were countless divine herbs and divine fruits everywhere. The deeper one went, the stronger the divine herbs were. Xuejihuang was on the lookout outside. The divine bird had already rushed into the depths of the garden. It was only interested in the divine fruit. As it ate, it sent them into its yin and yang ring. It didn't know the names of most of the divine fruits, but it knew that they were very valuable. Some of the fruits were very rare and hadn't been seen for 10,000 years. Many of them were things that even emperors didn't have the right to enjoy. However, the divine bird didn't hesitate to grab them and eat them. The ground was littered with fruit pits. Above the herb garden, divine light flowed. The barrier's divine light shot into the sky. No one would have thought that such a powerful barrier couldn't stop a bird. In front of it, there were dozens of golden ginseng fruits growing on a towering tree. There was an independent barrier around the tree. The value of this divine tree was beyond imagination. The divine bird's saliva flowed out of its mouth, and its eyes shone brightly. It looked around, and when it saw that there were no powerful beings guarding the area, it quickly entered the enchantment. However, before long, the enchantment shone brightly, and the entire medicinal garden was covered in a space-time restriction. Nothing could move. Chapter 1340. The divine bird was stunned on the spot. Although it could move freely, it could feel that the space around it was very sticky, and its movements were obviously restricted. When Xian Yanxue saw the divine light shining, he immediately ran away, abandoning the divine bird. Tong Tong wanted to look, but he was enveloped by a pressure. When he saw Xian Yanxue running away, he immediately asked, "What's going on?" "Don't ask. We've provoked a big guy. Let's go." Xian Yanxue didn't even look back. He didn't care about the divine bird at all. This guy and the divine bird were a match made in heaven. "What about the divine bird?" Tong Tong asked curiously. "F***ck, it has nothing to do with us. Just say you don't know it. This is called dying friends rather than dying friends," Xian Yanxue immediately warned. Oh, Tong Tong seemed to have learned something again. He nodded seriously and slipped away with Xian Yanxue. The divine bird was so scared that it squatted on the tree, motionless. Its color had turned green, like a chameleon bird. If one didn't look carefully, they wouldn't be able to see anything wrong with it. The key was that its aura was so restrained that it was comparable to Yi Qinghan. As long as it didn't move, no one would notice it. At this moment, an old man with sharp ears and monkey-like cheeks appeared in the herb garden. His eyes were like an eagle's, sharp and ruthless. At first glance, one could tell that he wasn't a good person. The old man glanced around and found that the divine fruits in the herb garden were almost empty. The ground was covered with fruit pits, and cold air was emitting from them. "Damn it, you dare to steal from my Bien family. The sky ceiling formation has been activated. Let's see where you can run to." The old man's voice was hoarse and extremely harsh, like the sound of steel rubbing against each other. The divine bird was motionless. Green leaves surrounded it, and it merged with the ginseng tree. Only its two big eyes were moving. F***ck, why does this fruit have a kind of resentment? The divine bird secretly exclaimed. It felt a wave of death chi coming from the depths of the ground. However, the ginseng fruit was full of vitality, just like a real person. It could even distinguish the gender. This kind of ginseng fruit was extremely popular in the market, and it was difficult to find even in 10,000 pounds. The divine bird curiously used its divine sense to explore downwards. When it entered the ground, it was so shocked that it almost fell down. Its divine sense actually sensed countless huge white bones, all of which belonged to humans. Furthermore, some of the corpses had not even decomposed yet. The roots of the tree were intertwined, and each of the roots was wrapped around a corpse. Furthermore, it was obvious from the bones that those corpses were all giant gods. Bang! At this moment, a fresh corpse was actually still moving. It was obvious that its cultivation had been restricted, and it had been buried alive to provide life energy for the ginseng fruit. F***ck your mother. These ginseng fruits are formed by absorbing the life essence of humans. The owner of this house is so vicious. The divine bird was shocked. It was so scared that it almost lost control of itself. If it was discovered, it would definitely be buried alive. Perhaps it would grow a fruit similar to a divine bird. Soon, the terrifying old man appeared under the ginseng fruit. He found that the ginseng fruit was not lost, but he also did not find the creature that had intruded into the herb garden. He looked around and frowned. Impossible! The heaven-sealing absolute formation has already been activated. He definitely can't escape. Swish! 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 Some people rushed over from afar. They were all giant gods. With divine seals in their hands, they entered the barrier without any resistance and quickly joined up with the old man. Search. He definitely hasn't left the herb garden. After finding him, no matter who it is, don't let him leave. Kill him without mercy. The matter of the herb garden cannot be known by outsiders. The old man said coldly. Yes, Elder. More than 20 giant gods quickly separated and spread out from the ginseng tree to search. However, they did not look above the ginseng tree. The divine bird held its breath and secretly cursed Xian Yangsu for being disloyal. If he was willing to delay the old man, it could have escaped. In the relay station, Yi Qinghan was cultivating a secret technique and comprehending the method of the outer world. Xian Yangsu and Tong Tong hurriedly ran back. The knocking on the door woke Yi Qinghan up. Yi Qinghan opened the door and saw that the two were panicking. However, he did not see the divine bird. He frowned and asked, "Did the divine bird cause trouble again?" "It broke into a herb garden. I couldn't stop it no matter how hard I tried. I could only watch as it ran in. However, I don't know what it touched, but it actually activated the absolute formation. A large number of experts rushed in. I couldn't beat it, so I could only come back to report," Xian Yangsu said with a serious expression, brushing aside the matter completely. When Yi Qinghan heard this, he quickly left the room and went to the entrance of the relay station downstairs. He said to a guard, "Go and inform the Mu family to find out who owns the herb garden in the southwest." "Yes, Lord Zhuai." The guard immediately left the relay station and rushed to the Mu family. After about half an incense stick's worth of time, a very steady middle-aged man came to the Mu family. He didn't look very good. The origin of the herb garden wasn't simple. Lord Zhuai, that's the Bien family's herb garden. The Bien family is connected to a very strange organization. As far as I know, it's an organization of assassins. However, it doesn't belong to hell or heaven. The Bien family exists for this organization. Moreover, the Bien family has a very good relationship with the First Financial Group and the Archaean sect. Normally, they're polite to the Mu family, but when it comes to the herb garden, they refuse to give face to anyone. My spirit pet accidentally broke into the Bien family's herb garden. Take me to see it. If there's any damage, I'm willing to compensate, Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. The Mu family's middle-aged man hesitated for a moment, but in the end, he led Yi Qinghan to the herb garden in the southwest. At this moment, there were 6 paramount gods gathered in the herb garden. 3 of them were peak experts, 4 were mid-level paramount gods, and over 100 giant gods. They surrounded the herb garden, and all the paramount gods were searching the garden. After searching for more than an hour, they still didn't find the divine bird. They couldn't help but go crazy. However, it was very clear that the person who broke into the herb garden was still here. The divine fruits outside have all been stolen, but the most important ginseng fruit is still here. He must have discovered the secret. We can't let him leave. Find him even if you have to dig 3 feet into the ground. The old man who had been in the beginning shouted sternly. The giant gods and paramount gods' expressions were somewhat unsightly. They spread out to search, but forgot that there was a bird sitting on the ginseng fruit tree. At this time, Yi Qinghan and the Mu family's elder came alone, hoping to compensate the Bien family for their losses and try not to fight. However, they didn't know that there was a shocking secret hidden in the herb garden. Because of this secret, the Bien family couldn't reconcile with Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan looked at the soaring barrier and pressed his hand on it. He said in a low voice, "The holy city Zwafeng has come to pay a visit to the Bien family's friends." Inside the barrier, the Bien family's elder's face was hazy. He frowned and looked outside the barrier. Who didn't know that Zwafeng of the holy city was an assistant minister? My Bien family has nothing to do with him. Why is he here? The Bien family's elder was secretly puzzled and quickly rushed outside. Whoosh! The Bien family's elder quickly appeared outside the barrier. When he saw the Mu family's elder and Yi Qinghan, his hazy face suddenly turned into a smile. He cupped his fists and said, "So it's Zwafeng and Mu Chun. Why have you come to my Bien family's herb garden? We don't receive distinguished guests here. Why don't you come with me to the Bien family?" Chapter 1341. Mu Chun obviously knew the Bien family elder in front of him, and the Bien family elder knew him. Yi Qinghan looked down at the Bien family elder in front of him. The elder looked to be less than 1.75 meters tall and was emaciated. His eye sockets were protruding and his entire body was filled with hostility. It was impossible to imagine how a cultivator could look like this, without any semblance of a human. Elder Biening, this is Marshal Zhua. His spirit pet accidentally broke into your family's medicine garden, so he specially brought me here to apologize to the Bien family. If there is any loss, Marshal Zhua is willing to compensate according to the price. Please release your spirit pet. Mu Chun quickly bowed and said, "That's right, fellow Bien. If there are any losses, this marshal will definitely compensate according to the price. Although this spirit pet is not very useful, it has been with me since childhood. It is like a brother, and I am unwilling to part with it. It likes to cause trouble, but it has no bad intentions. Fellow Bien, please let it go." Yi Qinghan cupped his fist and said, Bien Ying's eyes turned cold and the chill was threatening. He said hoarsely, "So it is Marshal Zhuo's spirit pet. No wonder it stole all the divine fruits in my family's forbidden area. More than half of the ginseng fruit has been eaten. I am afraid Marshal Zhuo can't afford to compensate. This beast must die here today. If Marshal Zhuo feels reluctant, my Bien family is willing to compensate with a higher-level spirit pet." When Yi Qinghan heard this, his domineering aura leaked out. He looked down at Bien Ying, and his hostility filled the surroundings. He said in a cold voice, "Take me in. If it is as you say, I am willing to pay double the compensation. But if you dare to hurt it, don't blame this marshal for being ruthless." "And if I don't?" Bien Ying released his aura and coldly retorted. The two sides opposed each other with equal harshness. One wanted to keep the secret, and the other wanted to protect his brother. They were both very strong and neither side gave in. Yi Qinghan looked at Bien Ying, and the corner of his mouth hooked up into a cruel smile. He said hoarsely, "No one has ever dared to refuse my proposal. I am now discussing with you. If you don't want face, I will completely tear it off. I want to see if your Bien family's face is more important than the inheritance." The ruthless Yi Qinghan was like an arrogant wild wolf, full of wildness and dominance. Every word and action of his carried a deadly threat. Bien Ying had an ugly expression on his face. Although his cultivation seemed to be a minor realm higher than Yi Qinghan, deep down, he did not dare to confront Yi Qinghan. "You want to use your aristocratic status to bully ordinary people like me?" Bien Ying asked angrily. "Then I'll tell you according to the rules of Jianghu. It's right and proper to pay back what you owe. I'll pay you back what my spiritual pet has destroyed. What else do you want?" Yi Qinghan took a strong step forward, his disdainful eyes threatening. Outside the enchantment, a baleful aura soared into the sky, sweeping up the fallen leaves and his black hair. The bracelet on Yi Qinghan's wrist emitted a crisp sound as it swept into the sky. Bien Ying sneered, "In terms of the rules of Jianghu, what are you, Zhuofeng? Your spiritual pet unscrupulously destroyed my Bien family's property. You want to pay the original price for compensation? Where will my Bien family's face go?" Mu Chen frowned as he looked at Bien Ying. He didn't expect this guy to be so strong. He would rather offend Zhuo Shuai than let go of a parrot. He felt that this matter was a bit strange. "Fellow Bien Daoist, just report your family's losses to the elders. If Mr. Zhuo really can't afford it, my Mu family will make up for it. Mr. Zhuo has already expressed his apology. The Bien family's face is enough. Do you want him to go to the auction house and apologize to your Bien family in front of the world?" Mu Chen said with a frown. Bien Ying said disdainfully, "The loss this time is immeasurable. The Bien family doesn't want compensation. We just want to tell the world that my Bien family is a forbidden area. Anyone who breaks in will die. Even Zhuo Shuai's spiritual pet is no exception." Seeing Bien Ying so arrogant and unwilling to back down, Yi Qinghan couldn't help but laugh evilly. "It seems that the Bien family's face is indeed very important. I don't know if your face can withstand my fist." Yi Qinghan clenched his iron fist. His momentum soared into the clouds, and the might of the firmament was restrained in front of his chest. He glared, and his fists broke the shackles. Everything on the 100-mile-tall mountain swayed, as if following his punch towards Bien Ying. Boom! Flames came out of the friction of the iron fist, burning everything in front of him. The power of the war of the heavens swept in all directions, causing sand and stones to fly. Mu Chen's eyes were filled with horror. He retreated again and again. His whole body felt like it was being pricked by needles. The power that erupted from Yi Qinghan's body was too brutal. Jianghu people spoke Jianghu words and did Jianghu things. If there was a disagreement, there would be a fight between fists. The moment Yi Qinghan made his move, Bien Ying's mouth revealed a cruel smile. His fingertips buckled and a heaven-devouring Qiankuan pot appeared in his hand. He pressed his palms on the pot and the Qiankuan pot suddenly expanded. Divine light shot out in all directions and the pot's mouth was aimed at Yi Qinghan. Swish! A majestic suction force directly tore Yi Qinghan's body into the pot. Yi Qinghan felt something was wrong when he approached the pot's mouth. A sinister killing intent came from the pot, as if it could devour and destroy everything. Topple the mountains and overturn the seas. Break the heavens. Yi Qinghan's fist turned into two palms and fiercely struck the pot's mouth. He hoped to use the counterforce to escape the pot's mouth. However, the pot's mouth formed a vortex that ignored this force and swallowed Yi Qinghan's force. The pot's mouth emitted a divine light that emitted profound laws. It was supreme. Yi Qinghan's body did not shrink, but the pot's mouth expanded infinitely and swallowed him in an instant. Bien Ying sneered and put away the Qiankuan pot. He said disdainfully, "How can the people of the imperial court discuss matters of the pugilistic world?" Mu Chen watched in shock as Bien Ying used the Qiankuan pot to take away Yi Qinghan. He could not help but cry out, "Bien Ying, you've caused a disaster. His Majesty and Marshal Zhuo came personally, but you killed Marshal Zhuo because of a herb garden. How can His Majesty spare you? I'm afraid your entire family will be implicated." Bien Ying's lips curled into a cruel smile. He said hoarsely, "Mu Chen, this matter is only known to the heavens and the earth. No one else knows. I'll treat it as if you've never been here." Swish! Just as the lightning flashed, Bien Ying took out the Qiankuan pot again and took Mu Chen away. Even Yi Qinghan could not avoid it, let alone Mu Chen. A majestic world force appeared in the Qiankuan pot. It could refine all living things and turn everything into a pool of water. It was extremely poisonous and It could destroy everything. However, Mu Chen looked at Yi Qinghan, who was standing on the poison pool, and didn't move at all. There was even a faint smile on his face, as if he didn't care about this place at all. However, Mu Chen cared. The power of the world quickly broke through his defenses, and with a scream, he fell down. The power of the world turned into thousands of rays of light that surrounded him, wanting to refine him. Ensure pot. Yi Qinghan looked at the pot's structure and the strange operation of the world force. He recognized this ancient treasure. It could refine the world and swallow everything. As long as one was shot into the pot, no one could escape. Yi Qinghan reached out and grabbed Mu Chen's back. He lifted him up. An indifferent force protected him. The world force could not refine them. Zhuo Shui, what should we do? Mu Chen asked in horror. That's the Ensure kettle, an object of supreme in all creation. It contains the power of the world, which can help it refine and consume anything. Of course, that's not absolute. It depends on the cultivation base of the person who controls the power of the world, and how much enlightenment they have of it. Clearly, Bien Ying doesn't understand the power of the world. The Ensure kettle operates on its own, and doesn't explode with power that can kill ordinary paramount god. But as far as I'm concerned, as long as I don't fall into the pool of water, it won't hurt me. Sir, save me. Mu Chen pleaded. He looked at the world force swirling around him, and said in horror. Chapter 1342. The power of the world was naturally the origin of the Nine Worlds. No one in the Nine Worlds could go against the power of the world unless they had comprehended the Nine Worlds thoroughly. Yi Qinghan dared to say that he had comprehended the power of the world the most, and no one dared to refute him. Not even the Lord of the Seven Worlds could surpass him. Yi Qinghan held Mu Chen with one hand and caressed it with the other. The power of the world flowed along with him, and the divine light under his feet flowed, as if it was flat ground. The power of the world in the Ensure's pot was soon under his control. He then threw Mu Chun to the side expressionlessly. Mu Chun panicked, but he realized that the Incher's pot didn't refine him. Instead, it was unusually comfortable. He couldn't help but look at Yi Qinghan in shock. "My lord, what should we do?" Mu Chun asked in shock. Yi Qinghan looked up and it was like a galaxy. He couldn't see the top of the pot at all. "Just wait for him to open the Incher's pot again." Yi Qinghan closed his eyes and his divine sense rushed out in all directions to sense the opening of the Incher's pot. 1,000,000 miles, 10,000,000 miles, it was as if the space inside the Incher's pot was boundless and it was like a world of its own. After a long time, Yi Qinghan's figure flashed and he appeared in the depths of the galaxy far away. He used his hands to support the opening of the pot and realized that it was as steady as Mount Tai. Inside the pot was equivalent to being in this world. No matter if it was a human or a god, they couldn't break through the 9 worlds. Now, he could only wait for Bien Ying to open the Incher's pot. At that moment, he could rush out of the pot and kill Bien Ying. Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged below the pot and comprehended the power of the world. With the power of the world as a catalyst, it was exceptionally easy for him to convert the godly power into the Incher's pot. All the godheads and spiritual spaces in his body were connected, and they turned into boundless godly power that gathered in his dantian. He formed a seal with his palms and guided the power of the world into his body. The godly power of the various elements in his body turned into the power of the world. Even the great desolation godly power was assimilated into the power of the world. Whoosh! All of the world powers had been sucked away. Yi Qinghan was like a bottomless pit. The entire Yin family's pot contained an unknown amount of world powers. It was likely that the Yin family's pot was a legendary pseudo-world item. It was also a top-class item. Otherwise, Yi Qinghan would not have known its name. Yi Qinghan's divine senses expanded and he started to refine the entire Incher's pot. He wanted to defy the heavens and seize control of the Incher's pot. If he succeeded, Bien Ying would probably die from anger. Back then, no one had ever been able to control it and it was impossible to tell what level it was. That was why Yang Qi had spent so many precious treasures to acquire it. Not even he, a peak paramount god, had been able to control it, so it was only natural that he viewed it as a paragon god treasure. After acquiring it, he had killed countless experts, including many peak paramount god. Bien Ying's status in the god world of the Snow Empire was quite high because of the Yin family's pot. At this moment, Bien Ying had used the Incher's pot to devour Yi Qinghan and Mu Chun. His lips curled into a cold smile as he turned around and stepped into the herb garden. He coldly scanned his surroundings and sinisterly said, "Lowly bird, get out here. Your master is here to pick you up." The divine bird spied on Bien Ying, but couldn't sense Yi Qinghan's location. Therefore, it was certain that he hadn't entered the barrier. Clearly, it didn't trust Bien Ying. It stood motionless among the leaves. Bien Ying was infuriated. He stared at the ginseng fruit tree, searching it inch by inch. Occasionally, his gaze would sweep past the divine bird, but he couldn't find it. The divine bird had long since been listed as a key target by the major organizations. This bastard had even dared to steal from the god sect, and had left unscathed. How could they not pay attention to it? The divine bird was a parrot with white feathers, extremely intelligent, and could ignore all barriers. Bien Ying clearly didn't know that the divine bird had the ability to change color. Perhaps even Yi Qinghan himself didn't know. Perhaps it had grown to such a stage that it could seek advantages and avoid disadvantages, and evolve on its own. After searching many times, he still couldn't find any trace of the divine bird. Bien Ying paced back and forth under the ginseng fruit tree. Finally, he looked at the Yin family's pot in his hand and sneered. "It's been 6 hours. Presumably, Zuofeng and Mu Chun have been refined. Since that's the case, I'll use the Yin family's pot again to take you out of here." Bien Ying snorted coldly. He rose from the sky and looked down from above. He pulled open the pot's mouth and pointed it downwards. He shouted in a low voice, "Supreme God Pot, devour all things." But after a long time, the Yin family's pot didn't produce any suction force. There wasn't even any movement. The reason why the Yin family's pot was so strong was because it contained a huge amount of world energy. It formed a huge profound law that could devour everything. But now, the world energy had been absorbed by Yi Qinghan. It was like a useless divine weapon. Bien Ying frowned. He stretched his head out to look at the pot's mouth. He wanted to see what was going on inside. But Yi Qinghan, who was inside the pot, threw a punch at Bien Ying's eyes. Pung! Boom! Ah! Bien Ying screamed. His body leaned back and the Yin family's pot fell out of his hand. Xiao! Yi Qinghan turned into a wisp of smoke and appeared outside the pot. He then reverted back to his golden body. With a grab, the Yin clan pot appeared in his hand. He then used his powerful sector Lord Divine Sense to erase Bien Ying's soul from the pot. Boom! Bien Ying's soul seemed to have been struck by a supreme existence. He became muddle-headed and spat out a mouthful of essence blood. He fell to the ground in panic. No! Bien Ying hugged his head and screamed. His body twisted and curled up. He was in a sorry state. Yi Qinghan then poured the majestic world energy in his body into the Yin family's pot. He also mobilized the purest world energy in the 9 worlds heaven. The Yin family's pot, which was about the size of 2 palms, became extremely majestic. Golden light shot out in all directions. In just a moment, the Yin family's pot was filled with world energy. Mu Chen was also released. His handsome face revealed a smile. He didn't expect to obtain the peerless divine weapon Yin family's pot here. At this moment, the divine bird rushed down from the ginseng fruit tree and cursed. The Bien family is inhuman. There are corpses everywhere under the ginseng fruit tree. Each ginseng fruit is formed by absorbing the life of a giant god. For the ginseng fruit to grow to this stage, I don't know how many giant gods the Bien family killed. Yi Qinghan's eyebrows twitched. He spread his divine sense downwards and found a large number of human bones. He saw that the roots of the ginseng fruit tree were still stuck in a few bodies that were not completely dead. They were crazily absorbing the life essence and souls of the giant gods. He couldn't help but clench his iron fist. No wonder you would rather offend this seat and kill my spiritual pet. It turns out that you were hiding this secret. Yi Qinghan looked coldly at Bien Ying, who had fallen to the ground, and said coldly. Mu Chen also spread his divine sense downward. He saw the dense piles of bones. It was like hell. He couldn't help but say angrily, "You are so vicious. We actually became your accomplices and helped you auction the ginseng fruit. This is simply a heinous crime." Bien Ying was terrified. Once this matter was exposed, the Bien family would become the target of public criticism. At this moment, he could only look angrily at Yi Qinghan and the divine bird. Looking at its green feathers, he almost went berserk. But before he could do anything, he was kicked to the ground by Yi Qinghan. Chapter 1343. The Zhang family just updated the wrong version. Please remove the Kuang Wu Zhan bookshelf first, and then you can see the correct version. Bien Ying was kicked into the ground by Yi Qinghan, and he almost couldn't breathe. Yi Qinghan looked down at Bien Ying condescendingly. The corners of his mouth curled up in disdain and arrogance, full of provocation. He leaned over and said in a hoarse voice, "Jianghu people speak Jianghu words and do Jianghu things. Since you've lost, I'll kill you. As for the inhumane matter of the ginseng fruit tree, the Bien family will bear it. If you don't give me face, don't blame me for not giving you face." Pooh! Bien Ying's face was ferocious. He looked at Yi Qinghan angrily and roared, "I will bear the consequences of my own actions. This is my herb garden, and it has nothing to do with the Bien family. If you have any problems, come at me. If I frown, I'm your grandson." Yi Qinghan laughed evilly and said disdainfully, "I don't have such an ugly grandson like you. Don't try to make connections." "What do you want?" Bien Ing asked angrily. "I don't want anything. I just want to seek justice for the people who died under this tree. Otherwise, how can I be an assistant minister of God Kingdom?" Yi Qinghan said lightly. Bien Ing wanted to move the foot on his chest, but he couldn't move an inch. After struggling for a long time, he didn't even have the strength to breathe. He could only give up and beg for mercy. "Marshal Zhua, you just want money. As long as you are willing to let the Bien family go, I am willing to pay any price." Yi Qinghan fiercely twisted his foot and said in revenge, "I can't afford your herb garden. Obviously, you can't afford the price I want. The Bien family must be destroyed, and I will let you watch them die one by one. This is the price you have to pay for rejecting my proposal." At this time, the group of experts from the Bien family rushed in from the outside and shouted at Yi Qinghan, "Who is so arrogant? How dare you blaspheme the dignity of Elder Bien? Do you want to die? Let go of Elder Bien. Be careful that the Bien family doesn't slaughter your whole family." The experts from the Bien family roared. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan waved his hand, and the Inshur's pot hovered in the air. With a flash of divine radiance, the Inshur's pot captured all the experts. Mu Chen didn't dare to say a word, nor did he want to plead for mercy for the Bien family. This time, he had almost died at the hands of Bien Ing, so he only had resentment towards the Bien family. However, he only had respect for Yi Qinghan. He had never seen anyone who could escape after being sucked into the Inshur's pot. "Come with me." Yi Qinghan glanced at Mu Chen coldly. Then, he lifted Bien Ing up and clasped his neck, sealing his spiritual space. Bien Ing now regretted it. He didn't expect Yi Qinghan's revenge to come so quickly, and in an even more violent way. "No. Zhuofeng, you can't do this. This matter has nothing to do with my Bien family." Bien Ing roared hoarsely. Yi Qinghan ignored him. He took him to the boundary and shot a distress arrow into the sky. The arrow exploded in the void, and the people of the arrogant sect immediately rushed out of the auction house. Xue Zhihuang frowned and looked into the distance. He put on his black cloak and disappeared in a flash. He tore through the void and left the courier station. He was faster than the people of the arrogant sect. He rushed out of the herb garden first and saw Yi Qinghan carrying the Bien family elder. Mu Chen stood aside and transmitted his voice to Yi Qinghan. "It's me, Xue Zhihuang. What's going on? Why did you shoot a distress arrow?" Yi Qinghan saw Xue Zhihuang and immediately explained, "The ginseng fruits sold here are piled up with human lives. One ginseng fruit represents more than 10 human lives. They sealed the giant gods and even the supreme gods and buried them alive under the roots to provide nourishment for the ginseng fruit tree. Even their souls were taken away and became part of the ginseng fruit. This vicious plan is simply against humanity. Today, I will enforce justice on behalf of heaven." "What? How dare the Bien family?" Xue Zhihuang was furious. He smashed the ground with his palm. After entering the boundary, he saw that Yi Qinghan's murderous intent towards the Bien family was growing stronger. Whoosh! The people of the arrogant sect rushed out of the boundary. They could not help but laugh when they saw the divine bird's green body. The little miser roared, "Are you cursing me to make you a cuckold? Are you saying I'm fickle?" The divine bird was a little innocent. It did not know why the little miser was so angry. It said aggrievedly, "I didn't say that. How dare you quibble? You don't love me at all." The little miser roared. The divine bird was a little angry. It was already a little frightened and did not want to coax the little miser. It immediately said impatiently, "How am I quibbling? Everyone is watching. When did I say you're fickle? When did I curse you to make me a cuckold?" I'm doing this to protect myself. How dare you yell at me? The little miser exaggeratedly stuck out her big belly and asked angrily. The divine bird was completely stunned. It stared at the little miser in disbelief. It felt like it was looking at an idiot. It did not want to pay attention to it at all. It turned its head and did not speak anymore. Great. You ungrateful B***TCA. You're ignoring me. You really don't love me anymore. Pity my orphan and widow. My child is not even born yet and it's already turning its back on me. Look at your green body. It's so disgusting. The little miser roared in confusion. Yi Qinghan, the divine bird, looked at the little miser. Its eyes were lifeless. It felt like there was nothing left to live for. Shuejihuang, the people of the arrogant sect, were completely petrified. They did not expect the little miser to be like this after she got pregnant. What do you want? The divine bird asked weakly. Yi Qinghan did not want to listen to their lovey-dovey quarrel anymore. He reached out and threw the divine bird over his shoulder. He said to the crowd, "Watch this place. No one is allowed to come near." After saying that, Yi Qinghan looked at Shuejihuang and whispered, "Ninth Emperor, let's go and suppress the Bian family. However, it's better if you don't expose your identity." Shuejihuang nodded. Together with Yi Qinghan, they rushed toward the Bian family with Bian Ying. The Bian family had just received news that the herb garden had been lost. They could not help but panic. They quickly contacted the Yantian Pavilion, the Wang family, and the Celestial Sect, hoping that the three major forces could change Marshall Zhuo's mind. The head of the Bian family was a dignified old man. He looked like a celestial being. His white hair fluttered in the wind, and his celestial aura lingered around him. He made people trust him. However, he was actually a treacherous and shameless person. Otherwise, he would not have killed so many people just to cultivate the ginseng fruit. Marshall Zhuo's reach is really long. Half of this auction house is my Bian family's territory. He didn't even ask who the Bian family's backer is. How dare he attack us? The benefits of the ginseng fruit are not exclusive to our family. The head of the Bian family said softly. I'm afraid that the Bian family's backer is not powerful enough. You can't make me back down. Yi Qinghan and Shuejihuang tore through the void and arrived. They stood outside the Bian family's gate and stared at the crowd. Their eyes were filled with murderous intent. Boom! Yi Qinghan threw Bian Ying to the ground and stepped on him. He said calmly, "Then please ask the Bian family's backer to come out. I want to see how powerful your backer is to dare to do such a crazy thing." Chapter 1344. The patriarch of the Bian family, Bian Changlong, looked down at Yi Qinghan. His majestic aura radiated in all directions, with a cold glint that could not be defied. "General Zhuo, we are all people standing at the top of the pyramid. Why do you have to be so ruthless?" Bian Changlong asked in a low voice. Yi Qinghan shrugged and kicked Bian Ying under his feet. He said lightly, "I didn't want to be so ruthless, but this elder of the Bian family did not seem to give me any face and forced me into a corner. Moreover, as the patriarch of the Bian family, you don't seem to care about me either. Since that's the case, show me your trump card. I want to see who is backing the Bian family and whether they can make me retreat." The atmosphere outside the Bian family was extremely oppressive. Bian Changlong signaled everyone in the family with his eyes, and they quickly spread out and surrounded Yi Qinghan and Shuejihuang. Divine power fluctuated abnormally, and murderous intent rose everywhere. "General Zhuo, let's both take a step back. I will pretend that nothing happened today. I hope General Zhuo will pretend that you did not see anything. How about that?" Bian Changlong asked firmly. "Sorry, I can't pretend that I didn't see anything," Yi Qinghan said calmly. Bian Changlong's face was cold. He snorted and said, Then what do you want? To deal with Bianing, I will naturally follow the rules of the Jianghu. However, to deal with the Bian family, I will naturally follow the imperial court's laws. Otherwise, why do you think I have not attacked the Bian family until now? I am waiting for the Minister of Justice of the auction house and the army of the residents of the 9 emperors to deal with you. I have to follow the rules to prevent people from saying that I am a bully, Yi Qinghan said lightly. Bian Changlong stared at Yi Qinghan. No one knew what he was thinking. After a long time, he said coldly, "A strong dragon cannot suppress a snake in its old haunts. Don't force me to fight to the death." Yi Qinghan looked at Xue Jihuang and asked telepathically, "Do you need to wait for the army of your residents? Or do you want to attack directly and wipe out the Bian family?" Wait, the Bian family is not an ordinary family. They have a strong foundation and have developed a huge network of relationships with ginseng fruit. If you want to destroy them, you must do it under the witness of the judiciary. Otherwise, you won't be able to convince the world. I don't want the world to say that the royal family and marshals are arbitrary. Xue Jihuang shook his head slightly, stopping Yi Qinghan's plan of attacking by force. Furthermore, with just the 2 of them, it would be difficult for them to fight against the massive Bian clan, not to mention that the Bian clan had so many external reinforcements. Yi Qinghan extended his divine sense outwards. The Bian family occupied an area of 1,000 miles. Countless tribes had gathered to form the enormous Bian family. There were many experts hidden within the tribes, and they were all suppressing their hostility. However, they were all restless and ready to charge out at any moment. When Bian Changlong saw that Yi Qinghan wasn't making a move, he guessed that Yi Qinghan was stalling for time so that the judicial department could intervene. Bian Changlong whispered a few words into the ear of an old man beside him. Then, the old man quickly left the place and retreated into the depths of the Bian family. About half an hour later, the Bian clan's territory was in turmoil. At least thousands of experts had been mobilized. They were all holding powerful divine weapons and carrying divine bows and crossbows. They quickly rushed towards the herb garden from another direction. Yi Qinghan and Xue Jihuang both noticed their movements, but they didn't stop them. Although the Bian clan had many people, their combat power was definitely not comparable to the insane sects. Even if this group of direct descendants of the Bian clan went to the herb garden, they would only be sending themselves to their deaths. It was impossible for them to destroy the evidence under the ginseng fruit tree. Yi Qinghan looked at Bian Changlong with an evil smile and waited with his arms crossed. Time flew by. Both sides were in a stalemate, but both were holding back. They didn't want to be the first to make a move. A third force quickly appeared. It wasn't the divine sect, nor was it the people of the Yantian pavilion. It was an elder of the Wang clan. Moreover, it was Wang Yuqing's grandfather, Wang Long. He was acquainted with Yi Qinghan. During the wedding last time, he gave him a large piece of perfect snow-step spiritual stone. It was priceless and could only be found by chance. Ha ha ha, isn't this my grandson-in-law? It's really a case of a family not recognizing each other. Wang Long laughed. Yi Qinghan smiled and bowed. So it's 6th grandpa. May I know what brings you here? I am my good grandson. The Bian clan and I are close friends. Can you give me face and let's both take a step back? If you suffer any losses, I'm sure old man Bian, as your elder, will not let you suffer. Wang Long tried his best to persuade and signaled to Bian Changlong with his eyes. After receiving the signal, Bian Changlong immediately changed his attitude. Zhuo Shuai, so you're old man Wang's grandson-in-law. We're really a family. My Bian clan's granddaughter is preparing to marry old man Wang's grandson, Wang Zhong. Today's matter is purely a misunderstanding. I've been rude. Since we're a family, why don't we discuss this in the inner palace? As long as we can appease Zhuo Shuai, I'm willing to personally pour tea to apologize. Xue Jihuang snorted. His cold gaze pierced through his cloak as he stared at Wang Long and Bian Changlong. He didn't expect these two old things to be able to gloss over such a crazy matter as the ginseng fruit tree so easily. Yi Qinghan naturally wouldn't let the Bian clan go. Not to mention Wang Long, even if Wang Zhongjuan came personally, it wouldn't change his mind to wipe out the Bian clan. I'm very sorry, but this matter involves the dignity of the divine nation. The royal family is the witness. How can we settle this matter hastily and in secret? Yi Qinghan asked indifferently. Bian Changlong's expression turned ugly. He didn't expect Yi Qinghan to be so stubborn. Wang Long was even angrier. He blew his beard and glared. He said discontentedly, "My grandson, are you not even willing to give me face?" Yi Qinghan pretended to be in a difficult position. He smiled bitterly and said, "It's not that I don't want to give you face. It's just that this matter has a huge impact. His Majesty already knows about it. I want to help you, but I'm powerless." Wang Long and Bian Changlong looked coldly at Yi Qinghan. They knew that he was declining and wanted to punish the Bian clan, but they couldn't persuade him. At this moment, a figure appeared in front of everyone. He was wearing the robes of a divine sect elder. He had met Yi Qinghan before. Back then, when Yi Qinghan went to the divine sect to save the divine bird, he was stopped by him. The elder looked disdainfully at Yi Qinghan and mocked, "The great left marshal. Who doesn't know that the puppet emperor doesn't know anything? You make all the decisions in the world. The sacred city is also ruled by your words. Now that you say you can't back down, it only means that you don't care about the Wang clan at all." Yi Qinghan's expression immediately changed. He coldly rebuked, "Elder of the divine sect, how dare you not care about His Majesty? You even maliciously slandered His Majesty and instigated the relationship between the marshal and the Wang clan. How preposterous! Do you still care about the divine nation?" Shuejihuang stared deeply at Yi Qinghan. He was somewhat suspicious of the divine sect elder's words. "What **T emperor? Do you respect him? The dignity of the divine nation is nothing but a joke in the eyes of super forces like you and us. Zhuofeng, I came here on behalf of the Divine Master to tell you to be a good person and do your job well. Together we can control this world. Otherwise you will die without a burial ground," the elder warned coldly. Chapter 1345. The Shenzong sect did not mince their words. They believed that the theocrats were either too old or too young. If it were not for Yi Qinghan, the Shenzong sect would be a pile of rotten wood. When Shuejihuang heard that, he was furious. He did not expect the superpowers to judge the theocrats like that. And they were so blunt. How much did the Shenzong sect look down on the theocrats? Yi Qinghan glanced at Shuejihuang casually, as if to verify that the Shenzong sect really did not care about the theocrat. They really dared to kill Marshal Shui and draw blood in the sacred city. Shuejihuang took a deep breath and made up his mind. He would slaughter the Snow God sect and uproot all the superpowers. The theocrats would be the only superpower. Even if both sides suffered losses in the end, he would not hesitate. Now there was only one crime left. As long as the Snow God sect dared to kill the emperor, the crime would be established. Shuejihuang was not someone to be trifled with. Although he was angry, he did not explode. Instead, he stood quietly behind Yi Qinghan, quietly waiting for the 9 emperors' residence's private army and the state's judicial department to intervene. Boom! In the direction of the herb garden, divine light shot out in all directions. Clearly, the Bian family and the eccentric sect had started fighting. Bian Changlong was waiting anxiously, but Yi Qinghan was much more relaxed. He did not show any emotion. Things had to be done one by one. When the Bian family's experts in the herb garden were all killed, Bien Changlong would naturally panic. He would find a reason and excuse to wipe out the Bien family. Divine light shot out from the horizon. Murderous intent filled the sky. The eccentric sex experts killed their way into the crowd. When their swords struck, heads fell to the ground. Divine power filled their bodies and killed their life force. No one could resist them. Jiang Jingtian and the others were merciless. They blocked the outside so no one could get close to the herb garden. Naturally, they could not destroy the ginseng fruit tree. Shirgu leaned against the ginseng fruit tree, holding the stone brick in his hand. His lips curled into an evil smile. He did not attack. The big bomb was always used at the last moment. Dealing with these small fries was like using a cannon to kill mosquitoes. It was too wasteful. However, given Shirji's temperament, he was unable to hold himself back. He put away the pseudo-world treasure stone brick and took out his own big brick. Its power had been reduced by more than 10,000 times, but it was still full of fighting spirit. He rushed into the crowd and smashed people's heads. The big brick was a weapon that could hurt enemies from all angles. Boundless heaven and earth, invincible brick. Suppress him. Shirgu formed a seal with both of his hands, and the brick in his hand turned into a colossal object that blotted out the sky. It was as if the sky was collapsing, and the giant god's legs were trembling from the pressure. They unleashed their divine power in an attempt to block the suppression of the brick. Boom! Boom! The earth ruptured, and many experts were directly pressed into the ground. Their bodies ruptured, and their divine bones were broken. Whoosh whoosh whoosh! Jiang Jingtian, Xianyanxue, Li Feng, and the others rushed into the crowd with their divine weapons. Their spears pierced through dozens of people's bodies, and their swords destroyed hundreds of miles of land. Tong Tong broke the spines of many people, and he was so excited that he ignored the attacks of others. He killed several paramount gods in a row, and his teeth broke the necks of several people. His attacking style was strange, and it made the people of the insane sect feel terrified. Less than an hour later, there were no more divine power fluctuations in the herb garden. Bien Changlong stretched his neck to wait for the signal, but he did not receive any good news. Instead, he saw Yi Qinghan smiling evilly. Whoosh! A signal appeared in the sky above the herb garden. It was the internal signal of the insane sect, indicating that everything had been settled. Yi Qinghan did not show much emotion. The outcome of this matter was obvious. With Shirgu holding the pseudo-world treasure stone brick, even if Mu Yunfeng were to come in person, he would not be able to do any real damage to the Guangzhou. After another hour, the state government chief brought an army and surrounded the Bien family. There were at least 100,000 soldiers, and they were all out. Boom! 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 The army was uniform, and they formed a crescent shape. The opening realm crossbows were loaded and aimed at the crowd. However, Bien Changlong did not panic. Instead, he smiled and waved his hand, indicating for his people to retreat. Yi Qinghan frowned. The state government chief was an overlord, and he was not a direct subordinate of the imperial family. However, he usually listened to the imperial family's orders, and he would also follow the orders of the Snow Border Army's commander. They would not dare to betray him openly. Xue Zhihuang also felt that something was wrong. He slowly turned around and saw the state government chief, Xia Luochun, smiling evilly. Clap! Clap! At that moment, a young man walked out from the depths of the army. He clapped his hands and grinned evilly. The fourth prince. Mr. Zhuo, I treated you well, but you did not know what was good for you. You forced me to kill you. Do you regret it today? The fourth prince looked down at Yi Qinghan and asked coldly. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. He did not expect the fourth prince to be waiting for him here. Yi Qinghan was surprised. It was the first time he had been schemed against like this, and it was a young prince. Commander Zhuo, do you think my background is powerful? Can you do anything? Bien Changlong sneered. Wang Long was somewhat anxious. He naturally did not want the commander Zhua to fall, and the Wang family could also make the commander Zhua fall. However, he could not change the outcome because the Bien family would not let Yi Qinghan leave, and the fourth prince would not let him leave either. Yi Qinghan looked at the army surrounding them, and the only exit was blocked by the Bien family. He suddenly felt like laughing. Xue Zhihuang was almost angered to death. He did not expect the imperial family to fall to such a state, and the internal strife had not stopped. Are you trying to rebel in front of everyone? Do you still have the imperial family in your eyes? Xue Zhihuang reprimanded the Bien family, the fourth prince and Xia Luochun. Xue Zhihuang was furious. His cloak fluttered in the wind, and the surrounding aura was under his control, making him look like a supreme emperor. Only now did Bien Changlong and the others notice Xue Zhihuang. They were somewhat puzzled. Yi Qinghan stood with his arms crossed, a smile on his face. Even though he was surrounded, it did not affect his mood at all. The fourth prince frowned and looked at Xue Zhihuang. He asked coldly, "Who are you? Little Four, you really disappoint me. How dare you team up with an outsider to deal with an important official? Do you still have the imperial family's interests in your eyes?" Xue Zhihuang did not reveal his identity. He only reprimanded coldly. When the fourth prince heard this, his hair stood on end. Only the elders of the imperial family could call him Little Four. There were not many people who could have such an aura. Other than the Taishang clan elder, there was only one person in the previous generation who had such an aura, and that was Xue Zhihuang. You are ninth uncle? The fourth prince's eyes were filled with surprise and joy. Xue Zhihuang secretly took away the human skin mask on his face, and pulled off his cloak. His aura was so strong that Xia Luochun and Bien Changlong's faces turned pale. Hua! Xia Luochun was shocked. He quickly knelt on one knee and said in surprise, "I didn't know the ninth emperor was here. Please forgive me." The fourth prince hid his surprise and knelt in front of Xue Zhihuang. He looked wronged and angry. He growled, "Ninth uncle, I beg you to come out and eliminate the traitors around the imperial family." Chapter 1346. The fourth prince did not confess and attacked Yi Qinghan directly. He wanted Xue Zhihuang to deal with Yi Qinghan. Xue Zhihuang frowned at the fourth prince and said coldly, "You still have the face to talk about eliminating the villains around the imperial family. Are you referring to Marshal Zhua?" "Yes. Ninth uncle, you can't judge a book by its cover. Zhuafeng is a treacherous villain. He made the princes fight among themselves for his own benefit. He messed up the imperial city and made me, sixth brother, seventh brother, and ninth brother all suffer. In the end, he made ninth brother a puppet and he became the retired emperor. Then, he used the divine sect and the Wang family to fight each other and weaken the authority of the divine nation. The authority of the imperial family was like a puddle of mud in front of him that he could trample on. Even now, I still haven't found out what his true goal is, but his heart is vicious and his plans are sinister. He definitely doesn't have good intentions. Right now, no one in the divine nation can deal with him," the fourth prince said in a low voice. Yi Qinghan frowned and looked at Xue Zhihuang. He was suspicious. They looked at each other, but he did not see Xue Zhihuang as a threat. Xue Zhihuang's crime of harboring the survivors of the wilderness was enough to make him unable to rise again. At this time, the elder of the divine sect was not qualified to speak. He looked at Xue Zhihuang awkwardly with a pale face. He knew he had said something wrong. Xue Zhihuang looked at him strangely. Wang Long did not know what to say and kept silent. Xue Zhihuang's authority was there. As long as he was willing to come out, no matter if it was the divine sect, the Wang family, or the auction house, no superpower would dare to be presumptuous. His authority was even stronger than the former emperor's. No one dared to disobey him. Bien Changlong, what do you have to say about the ginseng fruit tree? Xue Zhihuang did not directly deal with Yi Qinghan or the divine sect. He decided to clean them up one by one and take back the authority of the divine nation. Bien Changlong was terrified. Once this matter spread out, the Bien family would be finished. Most of the missing giant gods and supreme gods had died under the ginseng fruit tree. The Bien family had offended many families and forces. Ninth Emperor this. Bien Changlong didn't know what to do. He didn't even know how to explain himself. In other words, this matter was indeed done by the Bien family. Let me ask you, who else is cooperating with the Bien family to cultivate this ginseng fruit tree? Snow Ninth Emperor asked angrily. At this moment, the expressions of Wang Long, the elders, and Xia Luochun changed drastically. Obviously, they were related to this matter as well. He was afraid that Bien Changlong would expose this matter. Bien Changlong was drenched in cold sweat. He peeked at Xia Luochun and the others from the corner of his eyes and found that they were all warning him. They didn't dare to expose him, or else the royal family wouldn't dare to offend so many factions at the same time. If they couldn't deal with so many people at once, they would definitely take revenge on the Bien family. Ninth Emperor, Bien Ing and I did this together. The Bien family doesn't know about it, and neither does anyone else. His Majesty can punish me alone. If you want to kill me or torture me, do as you please. I won't say a word. Bien Changlong said in a muffled voice. Yi Qinghan squinted his eyes and looked at the crowd. He wasn't interested in the Bien family. He only wanted to destroy the divine sect. Therefore, he didn't say anything and let Xue Ninth Emperor deal with it. Xue Ninth Emperor naturally understood that it was impossible to take down the Wang family and the divine sect in one go. Therefore, he didn't want to continue the investigation. He said, "Since you admit that it was done by the two of you, I don't want to continue the investigation. You can die now. The Bien family won't be implicated." Bien Changlong's forehead was covered in sweat. He slowly knelt on the ground. He didn't want to die, but he didn't dare to disobey Xue Ninth Emperor's orders. Ninth Emperor, the Bien family's leader, is a peak supreme god expert. Why don't you give him a chance to make up for his mistakes? It's a pity to die like this. Xia Luochun immediately went up and pleaded. Wang Long also went up and said, "Ninth Emperor, the Bien family is very important to the divine nation's economy. It's a pity to kill the Bien family's leader because of this matter. Please be merciful and give him another chance." The elder from the divine sect didn't dare to say anything. He was afraid that he would be implicated. However, Xue Ninth Emperor coldly looked at them. He revealed a cold smile and said with a hoarse voice, "You think you're not guilty? Xia Luochun, you openly disobeyed the orders of the Snow Realm Army's commander. You even besieged the Snow Realm Army's commander. This crime is punishable by death. You're really daring. You still have the mood to plead for someone else." Xia Luochun's heart jumped and he knelt on the ground in fear. "Left Commander, Ninth Emperor, this general knows his wrongs. Please be merciful." Xia Luochun begged for mercy. He didn't dare to raise his head. Yi Qinghan's lips curled into a sneer. Today, he was almost tricked by a little palace chief. This person definitely couldn't be left alive. Whether this commander is guilty or not, it's up to His Majesty to decide. Today, I'm still the commander of the Snow Realm Army. Therefore, I have the right to punish you. Yi Qinghan immediately stepped forward and said to the lieutenant, "Men, take Xia Luochun down and execute him on the spot. If he dares to resist, kill him." Ninth Emperor, save me. All these years, even if I didn't make any meritorious service, I still worked hard. Xia Luochun shouted loudly. Xue Zhihuang didn't say anything. He allowed Yi Qinghan to punish him. The crime of betraying the commander is equal to rebellion. No one has the right to plead for mercy. When Xia Luochun saw that Xue Zhihuang also wanted to kill him, his expression changed greatly. He immediately soared into the sky and fled far away. Boom! Yi Qinghan jumped up and punched out. His fist shattered the blue dome of heaven. His bracelet trembled and turned into a sound of nature that spread in all direction. Hua hua hua! In a split second, the heavens collapsed and the earth split. Even space and time were shattered. Yi Qinghan turned into a living dragon. His speed was several times faster than Xia Luochuan's. He punched him out of the different space. Bang! Puff! Ah! Xia Luochun screamed miserably. His body fell from the sky. Yi Qinghan descended from the sky. His bracelet turned into a long blade. His domineering aura soared to the sky as he slashed at Xia Luochun. Poochie! Xia Luochuan's body twisted. He wanted to dodge, but his long legs couldn't. He was chopped down by the blade. The world energy brought with it boundless and magnificent destruction. It directly crushed his legs into fine powder. Blood splattered across the sky. The world energy brought about irreversible injuries. Xia Luochun was unable to heal his injured body. The lower half of his body was destroyed. He fell heavily on the ground. Boom! Yi Qinghan stepped on Xia Luochun. He revealed a mocking smile and said hoarsely, "Xia Luochun betrayed the country and the world. I, as the commander of the Snow Realm Army, declare that he will be executed immediately. His entire family will be executed. You vicious thief! You will die a horrible death!" Xia Luochun roared. However, before he could finish, he saw a long blade slashing across his throat. His head was shattered into fine powder. Bian Changlong's eyes turned red as he stared at Yi Qinghan. He knew that he wouldn't be able to turn the tables today. He didn't blame the Snow Nine Emperor, he only blamed Yi Qinghan. If it wasn't for him and his spirit pet, the ginseng fruit tree wouldn't have been exposed. This old man accepts the punishment. Thank you, Ninth Emperor, for granting me death. Bian Changlong clenched his teeth and prepared to commit suicide. However, the pressure of heaven and earth suddenly became heavy. The space became extremely viscous. It was very difficult to even move. It was obvious that someone had taken control of this place. The land within 1,000 li of the Bian family had become someone else's territory. Chapter 1347. Time and space were viscous, making it difficult to move. Life and death were uncontrollable. Above the void, a figure gradually solidified. The pressure was getting stronger and stronger. It was as if a god had descended to the mortal world. A ray of light looked down on the earth, and his will covered thousands of miles. Domain. The area around the Bian family had become this person's domain. Everything had to follow his will. Yi Qinghan suddenly raised his head, and his hair stood on end. His bracelet turned crazy as he looked at the newcomer with vigilance. It was the master of divine sect. He didn't expect him to have comprehended the profound laws of the world. He could instantly control time and space and turn it into his own domain. Extreme perfection expert. The Divine Master had broken through a shackle and become a person second only to the Realm Master. He was on the same level as Huang Peng and other top experts of the older generation. He was even stronger than Xue Zhihuang. Yi Qinghan squinted at the descending Divine Master. His face was filled with killing intent and a cold smile. He couldn't help but take a step back. He held the Insher's pot in his hand, but he didn't say anything. Xue Zhihuang gasped. No wonder the elder of divine sect dared to say such words. The Divine Master's cultivation had grown to such a level. Bian Changlong was excited, and his will to live suddenly erupted. If Xia Luochun knew the Divine Master would appear at this time, he wouldn't have chosen to escape and die a miserable death. Brother Jiahuang, I want to kill Zhuofeng. How about we sit down and talk about the grudge between Divine Sect and the royal family? The Divine Master looked down from above and spoke with an inviolable will, not allowing Xue Jiahuang to refute. Who was Xue Jiahuang? Other than the great ancestor of the royal family and the Supreme Realm Master, no one could order him around. Sect Master Xue, you're too arrogant. You dare to trample on the royal family's face in front of me. Do you really think you're invincible after breaking through? Xue Jiahuang wasn't protecting Yi Qinghan. He was protecting the royal family's dignity. His powerful explosive power crazily rose as he fought against the Divine Master. He actually wanted to tear apart the domain and control half of the sky. Boom, boom, boom. The sky connected to the earth, and the earth connected to the sky. It was dark. The tornado uprooted the houses and ancient trees. Even steel was twisted into a ball. The Bian family's defensive array automatically activated to defend against the aftermath. Otherwise, the Bian family's living beings here would have been annihilated. Wang Long and Bian Changlong took advantage of the chaos to leave, leaving only Bian Ying under Yi Qinghan's foot. Hoo hoo hoo. Hum hum hum. The howling wind caused the bracelet on Yi Qinghan's wrist to hum. The power of the world controlled the area within a radius of 2 to 3 meters, forming a very small domain. No matter how the tornadoes from the outside world tore through space and time, they could not lift a single strand of hair on his body. Not even the corner of his clothes were moved. Even if the heavens fall and the earth rends, I will not move. Yi Qinghan stood beside the whirlpool. He did not choose to leave because he was the center of this matter. Boom. The Divine Master's power was getting stronger and stronger. It started to crush Xue Nine Emperor's power. Although Xue Nine Emperor's power was strong, he was still weaker than the Divine Master. He started to lose ground. Thud. Thud. Xue Jiahuang stomped on the ground and his clothes flapped loudly. He retreated to the side of Yi Qinghan. His face was pale and his body was twisted. It seemed that he was about to lose. Brother Nine Emperor, no matter how disrespectful this old man may be to the royal family, I still respect the Supreme Sector Lord. What's more, this old man only disrespected the puppet regime supported by Zhuofeng and not the royal family as a whole. You haven't stepped out of your residence all these years. Even after the late emperor passed away, you didn't even want to come out. Do you know that this so-called left marshal is hiding the truth in the holy city? He used evil schemes and borrowed a knife to kill people. Step by step, he slaughtered his partners. In the end, he became the sole ruler. Now, he wants to use you to destroy the divine sect. He has sinister intentions and constantly weakened the divine nation's strength. If you don't believe him, go to the Saint City. The Divine Master suppressed Xue Nine Emperor in terms of power. In the end, he used the Divine Master's power to attack Xue Nine Emperor's sea of consciousness. Xue Nine Emperor's blood boiled and his soul was restless. He couldn't take it anymore and wanted to compromise. At this moment, Yi Qinghan put away the Inshur's pot. He formed a seal with his palms and pressed one finger on Xue Nine Emperor's back. The boundless power of the world turned into Divine Master's power and rushed to his limbs and bones. He mobilized the Sector Lord's soul and shouted, "Snow God Lord, aren't you afraid that people will laugh at you? Marshal Xue was killed by you. Could it be that I also killed him with a borrowed knife? On my wedding day, it was also you who sent assassins to assassinate me and Marshal Xue. You even injured Marshal Xue with your own hands. Could it be that I also killed him with a borrowed knife? You killed Marshal Xue when I wasn't in the Saint City and assassinated countless officials. Could it be that I also killed him with a borrowed knife? Now you attacked Ninth Emperor's soul to force him to submit. Could it be that I also killed him with a borrowed knife? Those who are truly sinister need no explanation. The Emperor naturally knows that he won't allow a despicable person like you to instigate him. His voice was like thunder and it rumbled continuously. It brought along a slight soul attack that blasted out in all directions. Shui Nine Emperor's soul trembled. With the support of Yi Qinghan's divine master's power and soul, he immediately turned the situation around. The two of them worked together and fought back crazily. They took advantage of the situation to fight for the territory. The mountains in all directions cracked and the earth split apart. Boom, boom, boom. Hua, hua, hua. The battle between the three of them caused a mountain flood, a rain of blood, and a strong wind. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. The army brought by Xia Luochun worked together to block the aftermath of the battle. They were forced to retreat 1,000 miles before they could stabilize their footing. In terms of strength, Yi Qinghan alone could contend against a divine master. Moreover, he had the powerful Shui Nine Emperor with him. With the two of them working together, the divine master immediately showed signs of defeat and he was forced to retreat. A vicious look appeared in his eyes. He formed a seal with his palms and took out the snow god Sek's most precious treasure, the thunder god's lightning hammer. In an instant, thunder rumbled and tore apart the heaven and earth, destroying 100 miles of land. The Bian family's outer area was razed to the ground. Shui Nine Emperor, you are so stubborn. If you don't believe me, you can go to the Saint City and ask the imperial family's ancestral patriarch to investigate this lad's background. I don't believe that I can't find any clues. This lad came from a small city. How could he have so many powerful subordinates? Once the thunder god's lightning hammer was used, the power of heaven and earth was controlled. It was comparable to a stone brick in its peak state. Coupled with the divine master's strength, it could definitely destroy 10,000 miles of land. Shui Nine Emperor didn't have a pseudo-world artifact, but Yi Qinghan did. The Inshur's pot was filled with the power of the world. When Yi Qinghan activated it, it seemed to have the power to devour heaven and earth. It strongly resisted the thunder god's lightning hammer. The power of the world and the power of thunder tore apart everything. Boom, boom, boom. Hua, hua, hua. Divine light shone for 10,000 miles, swallowing mountains and rivers. Yi Qinghan had lost his patience. He didn't want to be entangled with the divine master anymore. This person was definitely a big threat. Once Shui Nine Emperor became suspicious and investigated his background, he might be exposed. Hua hua. Yi Qinghan leaped up and formed a seal with his big hands. The Inshur's pot turned into a giant pot. The pot's mouth turned into a black hole that swallowed 10,000 miles. The power of the world revolved around it and attacked the divine master. The thunder god's lightning hammer bombarded the power of the world. It actually had the power to resist. The central area was destroyed, and it looked like the faraway auction house was about to be affected. All the strong martial artists within 10,000 miles were alarmed. They all rushed up and looked at the Bian family. They were shocked to see Yi Qinghan and the divine master fighting. Even Shui Nine Emperor felt powerless. In a battle with a pseudo-world artifact, even the supreme gods were powerless. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.